Okay. So Debbie, she's having trouble with a.
Okay. Just say try to twice and get it in. Hold tight. We have a piece of paper.
Okay.
Thanks, Tisha.
All right, if you're just joining us, we get started here in about a minute. Joining us on the webcast, please try to sign in through the QR code. And if you have a laptop with you, you may want to have Teams opened while we're going through this. But if you don't have it open, you still get a lot of the presentation. So.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Police University Mini Weekly. I am as prepared as all of our presenters, so I have a start on everyone. We're glad that you can join us today, whether you're here campus or online. Today's programs are three engaging sessions focused on productivity, leadership, and conflict resolution. Each are designed to help us strengthen our personal growth and workplace effectiveness. Please note that all sessions are recorded and will be available later. We also have on-board advisors at the conference. To learn more about your opportunities and any event, please visit www.fhsu.edu/EP, and we'll begin our first session, Tisha and Rachel.
Good afternoon. Glad you're here with us today.
Some of you I know have seen this presentation. So thanks for attending again. Clearly it is, we've kind of know it's clearly something that's to be covered as campus because this is the third time presenting it and it's not the last time we're presenting it. So it's obviously something that is pertinent and important. I am Lisha Hay, for those of you that don't know who I am. I used to be in as the faculty development training specialist. I'm now an instructor in the Department of Communication Studies Law and a staff position that heavily relied on teams to a faculty position that's now been seen department how important team is. And in that process, Rachel and I'll let her introduce herself, we've had some good conversations on how teams really increases your activity.
I'm Rachel Wing. I'm the Director of Field Experience in the College Education. I come to you with background, come on in, background in pre-12 education for 23 years and came aboard at Hayes just a couple years ago. Happy to be here today. As Lisha was saying, we have some repeat attenders, so I wanted to kind of get a little bit of feel for our group today. Just on a scale of 1 to 5, with 5 being I'm very familiar, I use it every day. 1, I only use Teams, chat with my bestie across campus. Give me a number you are as far as your familiarity with Teams. Let me know where you're at. So
very familiar.
I 5, 4s, 1s, 2s, 4, 2s, 3s, 4s, 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 2, 5. Okay, so we have a real smattering. So what we're going to have to do is kind of do some baseline for our people who are not as familiar. Those of you will be kind of refresher, some of you redundancy there. But then hopefully be able to introduce some of you to some features maybe you're currently using. How many of you have seen this presentation before? Okay, it's a couple in here. We got a lot of people. Great. And
well, we're going to give you objectives of 7. Before you that, I some people have trickled in some of the last announcement because we're getting ready to take QR code off the screen. If you have not scanned the QR, try it twice. If it doesn't work, the piece of paper that you sign, and then that's going to.
Well, another question while you move over. How many of you use Mac?
Oh, that's the other question.
Okay, a couple in the audience use Mac. There are a few differences with Mac users versus PC users. So let's reference the Mac. I represent PC. Most of it is interchangeable, but there are a few nuances that we have.
Very small.
Yeah, to identify.
So the session objectives are on the screen, but we really only have 2. Number 1, we want to share with you how you can utilize Outlook to manage your email, calendar, and scheduling more efficiently. This really is about being productive in less time. And the second one is how to use Microsoft Teams and Office 365, streamline communication, project coordination, and collaborative meetings. So those are the things that we're going to be focused on today during this presentation.
Okay, so we were preparing for this. I'm going to just kind of give you a little background how we got to this point. I think this probably we work in tasks and we can manage on a regular basis, and there's a lot of dual multiple roles, and it's sometimes hard to keep track of everything and make sure you're following up on this. And so I was looking for a solution to that, and that's where I started digging into the features in Microsoft to see what was available, because with our email and Outlook and just a whole array of options for it, was out to I'd come across Banner. And when I came across Banner in 2023, it was not integrated with Outlook, but I knew that integration was coming, and that integration came in 2024. So after that integration happened in late 2024, I started looking to it more in summer of 25. And that's how we got where we are today. Planner and Outlook and Teams, they all communicate with each other. That has not always been the case.
And you're on a Mac, it's not entirely true. So just those of you who are Mac users. It's okay. We have to get around it. Well, it's got to come. But
yeah, and each time we do this presentation, it changed a little bit. Mac is more integrated than it was previously. So it's a constant evolution. So this diagram, what I want to see is that Teams and Outlook do sync the to-do list and the calendar. So when your team can see calendar, that will also in your Outlook. And then also there's going to be, I'll show you a to-do list pane in Outlook that also communicate with. And you'll see that there's banner and posts that are available in Teams, and those then also will send emails. So whenever the actions happen in Teams, you can receive those emails. There's share file in Teams as well as share notebook. Well, I will get all those things today, but do all communicate with each other, and it all is in one place.
Yep. So a little clear also, something that we all need to be thinking about. We all have to do our Title IX training. We all have to learn about FERPA. One of the things really important to understand is at this time, Microsoft Office is one of the few platforms that we have on our campus that actually FERPA compliant. I mean, if you student data is safe in Microsoft Office. It is not that way in other platforms that are used on campus. I don't know if anybody here for the education department. I know that's a heavy goal, and that actually doesn't. This even more probably important piece why as a university we should be focusing on Microsoft Teams and integrating.
First of all, just reading our email overload. I don't know about all of you, but a lot of emails during the day, right? A lot of emails require responses, they require action, they have content we have to read through, they require follow-up. It's a lot to manage. So how many of you use what I would call the classic Outlook view? Okay. Yeah.
And I'm going to tell you, so the first time we did this presentation, I think it was June 25th, we were able to easily switch rituals. If you're on a Mac, you can no longer access Classic Out, just know. But on PC, you can still switch between them. It's being more difficult to do that. So that's triggering for us to say going to be less likely we'll be able to use Classic. So those of you that are still in Classic, you have to embrace the new version of Outlook sooner than later.
So there's
I said go, oh,
so it's good for those of you who are here seeing ahead of time when that switch to come and then just do it for you. It's a little toggle switch right here that you can go the beta version. And the beta version is what I have up now. So this is class version that many of you are still using and familiar. This is the beta version. The reason I want to introduce you to the beta version is the beta version has the class version does not that integrates with Teams. So that's why so there's a bit of an introduction on the beta version. You're not used to that, and also how this is going to work. Some of the things in I have my email are in. I want to kind of demonstrate a few features for you. There's also a browser-based version that's just this. You ever use the browser version, it's going to look the beta version. So I have a message from one of my student teacher candidates. She needs something. There is a snooze feature that is new, and I can snooze this message until later today when I want to deal with it at a later date. Okay. This right here is I receive my administrative assistant. Obviously, we've just came over here. So this is going to need some action. I'm going to create a task out of this one, and now I'm going to set my task window is open up over here on the far right. This task or to do, and you can see here. I can see all of my tasks. These are the tasks that I have once it loads up. Those are the ones that I guess I haven't added any to my day yet. But I can see this is where if I turn something into a task, and then once I turn it into a task, I can now archive it and it is out of my email. But if I go to my Teams, and I go to my tasks, and we're going to go over what this all kind of looks like. I'm just demonstrating this for you. See all my tasks. That email now that I just made a task is saved down here. And since I archived the email instead of deleting it, I can now get that email to come up for me with the information that I need that requires the action. All right. So when I am in my inbox, I can take any of these. So this one right here, I have a draft started. I need to start that as a task. It now goes over into the task, and now I can archive it. What this does, still in there? Where'd my archive button go? I don't know. All right, I'll come back to that. But it's now over here. So what this does is it allows you to clear out your inbox. So I've showed you how to snooze a message. I'm going to snooze Abigail here. I'll deal with her later on today. If I have a message that requires me to respond in a later date, this one right here, for example, I have it pinned because it requires action, but I am not going to do any activity with that message until, let's say, I'm not going to use that until November the 2nd. That's going to be the first time I'm going to use that message. So let's go to November the 3rd. So I'm going to snooze it now until November the 3rd. And now it's no longer cluttering up my inbox, and I don't have to keep track of it. Other features that I use are the categorization. So when I categorize messages, and then I can also use that archive button. So for instance, this is an early field experience, so this is a field experience. Now I can archive that message, and it falls now in my field experience category that I have access over here on this pane. The, let's see, snooze, flag. Okay, flag. Flag is pretty handy. So Katie sent me a message and she needs me to take care of something. So this is the one that's available in Mac and in Classic version. But whenever you flag something, it becomes a task. So let me close out of this one. So now that message that I just flagged is now a task over here. So I can look at my flagged emails, or it will also show up in all of my emails, reflective educator assignment right down here. But then if I have flagged emails that I need to follow up on, I can find it here under flagged emails and tasks.
I'm going to switch for just a moment.
Okay.
So in Mac, unfortunately, we cannot create tasks, which is not fair yet. So I use the flagged email as a way to remember that I need to do it, because if you notice, I also pin things. This is just my personal preference, things that I need to get back to. As you can see, I have multiple things pinned and flagged. It's because I have not done my insurance election yet. Yeah. Anybody else with me? Make me feel better. Thank you. But when I come over to my planner and I go to my tasks and I click flagged emails, there they are. There's all of those health benefit things that I need to do. So anything that I've gotten that has instructions on how to do it, or if you are like me and have a spouse who is also employed and you're on 2 separate insurances and you can only elect so much for an HSA, and you have had HR help you figure out what my election is versus what his election is, that email is all right there, so that when I sit down to do my election, I only have to go to one place to find that email and those instructions. And when I'm done with that, then I can clear that flag and move on and go from there. So unfortunately, we cannot create a task. The only thing that we can see in our pane over here is our calendar on a Mac. So if you have a Mac, that's something to keep in mind. One thing that you can do is you can create an event, and you haven't shown that. Yeah. So sometimes if it's something that I have to do on a specific day on my Mac, I create a calendar event from it. So that's one of those differences that we wanted to point out.
Okay. All right, thank you. Okay, so just a couple more things in Outlook. Just making sure. All right, so here Letitia and I were working on getting you all added to the team today. So let's say that I wanted to send her a message, but I didn't want it to arrive during the evening hours because I don't want her to look at it until the morning, because I want to be respectful of her evening. You can schedule send. The trick with schedule send, though, is your computer has to be online here at Fort Hays for it to work. So you can't use schedule send and then go home, take a laptop home and expect it to send. I do believe you have to be here on our FHSU
and we've
network.
Tried it to be connected to the VPN and we still can't get it.
Right.
I have not been able to get it to work. So that's something to think about. For whatever reason, we're only able to do it when we're actually connected to a Fort Hays.
So I happened to be up here working later one evening, and I needed to send an email to somebody else here on campus, but I didn't want them to get it till the next morning. So I set up the schedule send for 8:30 a.m. because I knew I'd be on campus at that time. I wanted to respond at that time because I had the time to think about it, but I didn't want them to get it outside of work hours, so I set it up as a schedule send. So that's also a way for you, if you're working on things, you can clear things out, but you can set the schedule for which they're going to receive it, so you don't get the reply back maybe in an hour and you're tempted to go back to it in your off work hours. A way to protect yourself a little bit.
Create those boundaries.
Yeah. So schedule send is a great tool to use.
Somebody asked why that might be, why it's only the only thing, and I'm not an IT person, so if there's an IT person here that can better explain it, please do. My assumption is because of the FERPA compliance, since we are not you're not connected to a Fort Hays email or Wi-Fi provider, is why you can't do those scheduled sends, because you wouldn't want that information out on a private network. Now, the caveat there is we all answer emails on our personal Wi-Fi connections, and it lets you do it there, but that's the only thing I can think of.
So a couple of things I just want to demonstrate before we move on to the next topics is if I have this email, if I drag it over to this pane, I can choose up here to add it as an event, or I can choose it here to add it as a task. All right, so let's say I want to add this as an event. As Letitia was saying, that sometimes on her Mac she can't, and it will come up now, and I can now set up all of the calendar settings to create an event in my calendar. So it's a pretty, it's a nice tool if you're not like a right clicker, you like the drag and drop options. Let me go and discard those. So then you can add as an event, or I can add as a task up here. This is a task I want to follow up on. So you can drag and drop those in your pane.
I will show you on a Mac how you do that, because we don't get to drag and drop, which is really ironic to me because Apple created the drag and drop idea, but this is a Microsoft. So, am I not going to connect?
I think it's
there. We go. Okay, so obviously we can't drag and drop. So if I was going to create an event, I can't drag and drop it over here. So you have to create an appointment in your taskbar, and in order to customize your taskbar, you will use the three dots to do a drop-down menu. You'll go to Customize Toolbar, and then that allows you to add pieces up here. So as you can see, I have Create an Appointment. So if I hit Create an Appointment, now I can make an appointment, and it saves all the details in the appointment in my calendar of what was in that particular email.
And so that'll allow you to maybe time block something if you want to work on that.
Right. So like for example, every Monday and Wednesday from 12 to 2, there's a group of us, we gather and grade. A lot of times that's when I will respond to specific, if it's not a pressing student issue, that's when I'll schedule those. I'll put those in there, and then that way I can answer those emails at that time.
And now if you want to take a look at the calendar view in that pane, you'll see that the tasks that I have set up, so you'll see I have several tasks that are due tomorrow. Not as many today. I didn't overload my day because I knew I had this scheduled. So for instance, now if I want to, I can right click on this, and I can block time. So I know that tomorrow from say 2 to 2:30, I can work on this particular task, and now it'll be blocked in my calendar. So those are just some strategies that you can use in whatever areas that you work in, the fields that you're in. It applies to everybody differently. Just trying to show you some of the features that you can use, and you can figure out how to apply them for yourself. Another feature that is becoming increasingly easy to use is Copilot. How many of you are using Copilot? Kind of, okay, yeah. So a little bit more confident. I'm not seeing a ton of hands. All right, so let's go with, trying to find.
I'll give an example.
Okay.
So earlier this week, we had some conversation going on in our department about our Halloween costumes and what we were going to dress as. And I got an email from somebody that said, can you please send out an email asking what everybody is doing? And in my mind, I thought, why do I need to send an email that you just sent me asking? And my response was probably not very polite initially, because I kind of hammered it out. And obviously I'm a communications instructor, and I tell my students, practice drafts. Copilot makes practicing drafts much better. I hammered out what I was really upset about. What I really wanted to say is, you just sent me an email to send an email about what you want? No. So I typed all of that out in the language that I was upset with, and then I asked Copilot to make it much more friendly to send it on.
So here, this is a student who wants to discuss something with me, so I can put this over here in Copilot, and I can summarize and reply to this email. And Copilot will spit something out for me, and then I can take it and do with it what I want. So I've been using this feature quite often. If you get a long email, you can ask it to summarize it for you, give you bullet points. You can ask Copilot to, I'll write in like, these are my circumstances in this situation. And I just kind of like, just kind of brain dumping. Please help me write a compassionate and empathetic email to the student regarding this situation. And then it will spit something out for me, and then I can then take it and manipulate it a little bit. It's in language. I don't have to think too hard to get it. So Copilot has a lot of abilities. This is one in how you can utilize it to help you in Outlook, especially if you are getting, maybe repeated questions for things, and that will bring me to something else.
I just wanted to touch on those long emails. Sometimes I will ask Copilot, this is my response to this email. Can you please make sure I have answered all the questions that were posed in this so that I don't miss something? Because then what's going to happen if I send it off, then it's going to come back to me and they're going to say, okay, but I still need to know this. And so then that's one more email in my inbox. So if I ask Copilot, check this for me, make sure I've responded to everything that is included in this email, that takes one less email out of my inbox later on. So that's something else to think about.
All right, so the last thing I wanted to demonstrate, this is a template. It's a little paper icon with a lightning bolt on it. If you do not have it on your ribbon on the top, you should be able to access it from the 3 dots here on the side and be able to add things to that ribbon.
I do want to point out, you have to be in a new message to get the template.
Yeah, the template.
You can't just be in your pane, your view pane. You have to be in an actual message.
In a new message. So this template, you'll see I get the same questions frequently. I imagine in your roles you probably get the same questions on a regular basis, right? So one of the questions that I get regularly is credit for prior learning in field experiences. If they work in a school, can they use that time for credit for prior learning? And so I have had to type that email out numerous times. So one time I finally copied the email that I sent and I saved it in templates. And now I have the template. All I did was click on it and it automatically loaded it over there. Now I can fill in the other information. I can address any specific circumstances to that student's situation. But I have the general information already. So I have also, if they're doing full-time teaching and they need to do field experiences, practice exams, common things. There is a character count. You cannot have, if you have like a really long message that you send to people about something, a saved draft or a saved document is probably better. This is for kind of quick, simple messages, things that are not too complicated. Those of you who maybe use quick parts in Classic, this is the solution to quick parts.
Because quick parts will go away in beta.
Yeah, they don't have quick parts in here. They only have the templates. Okay, the last thing on this is when you need to schedule an event, there's scheduling poll. Has anybody used scheduling poll before? Yeah, scheduling poll is a great feature. When you're, so I have to add my attendance first. So I have to have my title and my attendance. So I'm going to say, I'm going to invite Letitia. All right. And now, and I want to see what her availability is tomorrow. And it looks like we do not have any mutual time available. Both of our days are very full. But when you're working with a large group of people, you can put everybody's names in, put in all the dates that you want to look at, and then it will tell you, according to their calendars, how many you have available and how many you don't. And then you can start selecting the times where there's availability for everybody, and then you send out the scheduling poll. And because, let's face it, not always everything is in our calendars. There will be things that maybe we have on a personal file, personal calendar that we haven't put into our professional calendar, or maybe something has come up. But I really have found, for me, I have to schedule, I'll discard it. For me, I have to schedule lots of different events for an accreditation standard committee, and there are people all over campus that allows us to be able to do our scheduling together. So that is just a quick overview on how to use Outlook in the beta form, which is going to be, it's coming. We don't know when. We don't know when Microsoft will make the switch, but at some point it will come. Those are some features that are in there that you can already begin working with. Some of those features are available in Classic as well. But I think the main thing is how you're able to integrate tasks with Planner and Outlook is where you really start to grow your efficiencies. So I think
Now we're going to talk more about Teams.
Okay. I will turn it over to you.
Okay. Maybe. Okay. So we're going to focus a little bit more on Teams now, the actual app of Teams. There we go. And all of you that were that had registered for this were added to a team today if you were not already part of the team, and that was our Microsoft Applications PD. And part of the reason that we created this team was in June when we wanted to demonstrate these, we decided it was easier if you were actually in there. You can use this sort of as a sandbox, if you will, for playing around. It also provides you a place to ask questions. Okay, so I want to do this. Somebody, one of us probably, or somebody who's been frequently using Teams can jump in and answer that question. But what I want to focus on with why Teams helps with collaboration is it's flexible, and I'll explain that. But when you are in a department where you maybe have several remote faculty and you're trying to work with them, Teams gives you an opportunity to collaborate in one location for that. Or maybe you have people in your department who work in other departments that you need to collaborate with. Teams gives you a place to do that. It also centralizes course and committee work, department work. Most of us have some sort of committee that we help with, or we have something in our department that we are working, and you can create channels. So if you notice, the overall team that I have displayed here is the Microsoft Applications PD. We just keep creating channels for each time that we have been asked to present this, and we add you to those channels. So as you can see, it started out, it was Microsoft Applications PD, and it was just the Summer 25 Staff PD and Rachel and Letitia's planning. Those were the only two that were in there when we started. And if you notice, there's a little lock behind here. Maybe you're an admin assistant and you and your department chair have lots of communications or things that you need to share, but it's not something that the entire team needs to know. You can have a locked down channel. None of you should be able to see, if on Teams when you log in, you should not be able to see the Rachel and Letitia planning because that's locked down and only she and I have access to that. And so we have conversations in there about, oh, we need to include this, or this is a new update, or let's get this out. But it's just communication that's between the two of us.
And I would like to also add, as you were talking about, somebody, an administrative assistant, that they have a lot of shared information. It also acts as a bit of a repository or historical document, because as people come and go, you can remove them from a team, and then you can add a new person to the team, and the new person now has access to all of the old stuff that was there when the previous person who filled that position was on the team. So it is kind of a nice historical place. So you have access to various files, drives, and maybe discussions or planning that took place.
I was going to show you, when I left my position in Tilt, Debbie took my position. I added her to that team. I'm clearly no longer part of that team, but she still has all of the access to the Adjunct Faculty Advisory Committee team work that we did, and there's a lot of history in those files. I don't need access to that anymore because I'm no longer on that committee, but she does, and she needs access to all of the history. So I was going to show you, and I was like, oh yeah, remember? I'm not part of that anymore, so I'm no longer in there.
So kind of think in terms of continuation of operations when one person leaves and a new person comes in.
It also enhances support and advising. And what I mean by that is when we think of advising, we're usually thinking of students. So let's maybe use the term mentoring. It's really handy because you can create tasks that helps others in your team see what needs to be done. And I'm going to use the Tilt Fact Dev. They were kind enough to add me back to that because I created a myriad of tasks, or we created a myriad of tasks in there. All of the student workers plus the faculty developers were in this team. And what we ended up doing is we created repetitive tasks that we do every year over and over and over. We created these tasks in here, and that way we can assign them to specific students. So for example, if I were to work on the promotion panel, you can see that right now it's not assigned to anybody, but maybe I want one of our student workers to do that. Well, here's all the people. I'm going to assign this to Haley, and Haley's going to be responsible for making sure the rest of these things get checked off. Maybe it needs to be assigned to multiple people. So maybe it's Haley and Debbie is going to be in there, and she's got things that she needs to do as well. If you have your labels set up, you can tag those depending upon what they are that match your inbox and your email. And so that's another way to categorize and classify. But this helps with the accountability as well as the support and mentoring, because then you know exactly what's being done in your department for tasks that happen on a regular basis or even one-off tasks. I'll jump over to my personal planner just so you can see. So I have one-off to-dos that are assigned to me so that they show up in my day. As you can see, I have several things that are also overdue, so please don't look at that because I'm way behind after being at a conference and then last week and then this week. But that puts that task list in Teams, and you can click on My Day and you know exactly what you need to get done. So you don't have to spend a lot of time in the morning saying, okay, so today I need you to do this and this and this and this. Your tasks and the tasks that you assign to the people in your department are already there.
So let's backtrack a little bit,
okay,
because we are kind of going over how Teams and this all works. So why don't you go back to your personal planner?
Okay.
Yeah. All right, so let's go back and let's just walk through how this, so each morning I come into work, I open up my Outlook, I open up Teams. All right, so Outlook has all the new information, what I need to do that day, and Teams has, I'll go to my planner and I'll open up my tasks. So I'll take a look at my task. Now I like to go to all. So those are all the tasks. And then I like to actually look at them in the grid version because then I can kind of see them as a whole. All right, so you can see these are some that are overdue. These don't have due dates assigned, but these are the flagged. And then these are all my various things that I have to do. All right, so this is, let's see, this one's overdue. So I'm going to go ahead and add that to my day. All right, by clicking those three little dots over there on the side. So life insurance, got to get that taken care of. So let me get that added to my day.
She's going to make sure I get my life insurance or get my insurance taken care of.
Now you'll see that now if you click on this little information bubble, it brings up this view. And this allows you to say, oh, this is in progress. And so I know I've got started on it, but maybe I'm going to jot a note, waiting for an email from, or I'm waiting for a return phone call from, some sort of feedback that I've received, and there's the email that's associated with it. I can also adjust the priority if it's important, medium, or low.
You should probably set it as important.
Important. We'll set that one as an important priority. And
the due date.
Okay, so and it says it needs to be done by October 31st, but let's not wait until then. Let's go ahead. We'll say let's get it done by Tuesday. I know I'm behind on a lot of other things. I feel like Tuesday is a reliable date. All right. So now all I have to do is go and exit out. It automatically saves. You don't have to save anything. And now you'll see that is showing up here on October the 28th. It will hang out in this task list for you. And maybe as you work through all of these other things, this one comes now to the top and you're like, oh, I have time tomorrow. I was really busy. I got a lot done on Friday morning. I have time now to tackle this. And because I know I'm going to need probably an hour to work through everything. Now I can tackle it. But that is kind of how tasks work. So you can use it, those tasks, when they're in the planner on a team and you're sharing them with somebody, you can type in the notes section. You can put, hey, this is what I've done so far. This is what I'm waiting on, or this is where the holdup is, so that anybody who accesses that task can see that information.
You can also add files in these, oops, let me go. Why is it not letting me?
Go click that little I button, the information button.
You can even attach files. It won't let me scroll down here. Why won't it? I wonder if it's from the view. There should be a little attachment button down there, and I don't know why it's not scrolling, but you can attach files. So let's say you have a document that you work with that needs to be updated or sent out, and you can attach that file for whomever is working on that particular item.
I don't know.
I'm not sure either. I promise it works.
Yeah.
Let me go to a team.
So that's just a quick run through on how the tasks work and what type of information you can put into them.
Right here.
There it is.
I wonder if you have to be maybe
in
not in the view. You have to be in your actual planner, I think.
The planner,
yeah,
to add the attachments.
But you can add attachments. So if there's something that goes with that specifically, it's there.
I guess I can go from this mouse right here. That should be
there you go.
All right. So does that?
We need to talk about seamless file sharing and co-authoring. Okay. How often do you send a file via email and you ask somebody to review it and they add some information to it and then it comes back to you, but you don't save it to replace the original file, and so the updates don't get saved, or you have multiple copies of that particular file? So files is an excellent way to share and be all in the same place. And I'm going to use this particular channel. This is a channel or a team that I use with Rachel Dolachek. She and I have been doing research on higher education's online to their transition from during COVID to emergency remote teaching. We have, as you can see, multiple files that we have shared. And so when we were working just yesterday during our writing accountability group, we can open one document. She can be in it at the same time I'm in it, and we're making changes to that particular document rather than emailing each other, here's a document, here's the changes that we've made, now here's this, et cetera, et cetera. And so it's an excellent way to streamline your file sharing so that everybody has access to the correct file with the correct updates.
And these files are all saved in your OneDrive.
Right.
They're the OneDrive files in your various files, but you can add them to the files here, and they'll be updated in your OneDrive at the same time as well.
So you can see this is my OneDrive, and then it will allow me to save things. This is my personal OneDrive, so now I can drag stuff into different teams or vice versa. When you are asked to save a file, I don't know if I can do it with, I was gonna say.
So you can, here you can start a new file. You can grab a link from a previous file.
You can also grab a link from the internet and save a link, which is very handy. I'll show you that. So, for example, I believe it's in here. Yeah, so we used a Google form to collect demographic information. Well, this takes me to the spreadsheet that Google form is, and it's just a link rather than actually downloading the spreadsheet from the Google form, uploading it here. It just takes me directly to where it's saved.
Or having to constantly go to your Google Drive because it's saved as a Google form. You can just embed that link right there in your team files.
Okay. Media management, I think.
Okay. All right. So this, let me go switch over to mine.
Okay.
In the College of Education, we are in the process of implementing at commencement time. Let me get this open. We're in the process of getting ready to implement a pinning ceremony for our initial licensure candidates. All right, so to get started, we have our pinning ceremony shared team, and everybody that I'm working with, which several of them are here, we are using this as a way to maintain what we're doing. And so what this does is when you can communicate through your team, so if I go to our team, I'm going to go to our pinning ceremony team. Here we have been putting information that we need for our planning right here. We can document We can comment, we can offer feedback. We have, do we have any files saved here? We do have a few files saved in here. We also have a notebook that we are maintaining our notes from our meetings in there. And then we have our pinning ceremony planning board. So what this does is by utilizing Teams to communicate transparently back and forth, we're also able to reduce the number of times we have to meet. Get together, make sure we're all on the same page. This allows us all to stay on the same page. We put deadlines, we work on things, we can communicate back and forth. It's not all in email. It's not 5 of us emailing back and forth and having kind of the group. We can do it all right here. And then when we get together, we update these things, set new deadlines, and go on next. So it's a pretty big project for my group of about 5 or 6 of us. But we're meeting just every once in a while, and we're doing the work in between, and this allows us all to stay on task and communicate transparently on what we're working on. Just wanted to also show you, those of you who have student workers, let's see, where is my planner board? I want planner. I have 2 student workers that assist with our field experience placements. So this is where we keep all of our field experience tasks. And you'll see my picture is on a lot of these because we're at the end of the placement program. And so those are my wrap-ups. But you'll see that we'll have other student names assigned to them, and that allows them to also stay on task. And they don't always have to come to me and ask me, what do you need me to do next? They can go to the planner board and see what their next tasks are.
Do you have completed tasks? I also want to show that you don't have to create new tasks all the time. Do you have any of your completed tasks like at the bottom here?
I don't know if I can.
Okay, let me jump.
Yeah.
Let me jump over. This is probably for me the most time saving because it can serve as a documentation of what needs to be done.
Oh, and I have it set you can't view my completed tasks.
Okay, that's okay. I'm just going to show you.
So the reason we couldn't see my completed tasks is, in my view, I have completed tasks not viewable at this time because there's so many of them. It fills up a whole lot, so I have them filtered out.
At the bottom, you'll see there's completed tasks. This is my Monday, Wednesday, Friday. This is my COM 100 class. I have this set up. At the beginning of the semester in January, I'm going to go through and I'm going to change these due dates and I'm going to mark them undone. And it'll move it back into my to-do list. So I don't have to create new tasks that I'm going to do repetitively, either semester to semester or year to year. So that's how month to month, etc. That way it helps serve as a reminder for all the things that I need to do that I do on a regular basis, but I don't do them every day. So it helps me remember that. Okay.
Okay.
Actually, I'll just.
Yeah, you can keep that.
One thing that we do want to point out, obviously most of us know that we can have meetings in Teams. I'm not a Teams fan, which is okay. I don't like Teams meetings, probably because when I first started using it, it wasn't very efficient. It had dropped, but it's getting better. However, if you are used to using Zoom or you are meeting with people who are used to using Zoom, you can, how many of you know that you can add Zoom scheduler to your events? A couple of you. So let's say I'm going to create a new event and I want it to be a Zoom meeting. So I have over here, if I expanded this, it would be on there, but I could add a Zoom meeting and it automatically populates in here. I don't have to go out to Zoom and set the meeting and then copy the information in here. So I want to point out that in our teams that we added you to, there are a couple of things just to note. And the first one is I gave you step-by-step instructions on how to add that Zoom scheduler to your Outlook so that you can use it. Also, we gave you how to add templates to Outlook because it might not automatically populate for you.
So you gotta be very specific in what you're doing. So we put those instructions. And as we come across other things, we continue to add them to this team so that for people who are out there kind of dabbling in it, trying to figure out how to make it work for them, we continue to add. One that I just recently added was using Outlook email rules to save time. So one of the things is I implemented in my department, was the use of electronic timesheets. And so what happens is I'm going to get more emails when students complete those electronic timesheets for me to review. So now my email inbox is going to get a little bit more full. So I implemented a rule that any rule or any email with the term timesheet in it gets automatically labeled with the title and a flag of supervisor, and it's purple. And so anytime I see those supervisor messages, I know that it's probably a timesheet thing that I need to take care of, and it's something that I'll get back to later on when I'm ready to kind of devote some time to it. It's not an urgent thing at that moment. You can have it go into a specific folder. You can have certain things be deleted if you're getting, there's something that constantly comes to your email and you just delete it out. So familiarize yourself with those Outlook rules and maybe some different rules that you could implement to help build some efficiencies in your own inbox.
And we shared that in the summer staff 25 PD session, which not all of you were there. So I want to make sure that you have access because you were added to this fall 25 October staff mini conference channel. So I'm going to go in here. I want to show the ease of how you can. I'm going to forward this and I'm going to just start typing fall 25. And if you'll notice, it'll pop up. And now it's going to appear in your channel that you were added to this morning. So you can also forward between those channels, which also makes it easy if you want to share things to the whole group or to a different channel.
Yeah, go back to your email. Similarly, in Outlook, if you have a message.
I actually have a message that we can do this too.
Okay.
So I am part of the AAC&U team. Andrew shared this. I have a group of, I have information that I want to share to our team. He sent it as an email instead of in our team post. So I'm going to share to Teams, and I'm going to choose this AAC&U IAPIC. It's a long one, but I would put it, it is a lot of letters. I'm going to put it there, and then I'm going to share the information that I have to add to this. So he shared the initial email. I don't want it to become this email conversation back and forth because there's 8 of us in this group, and if everybody replies, then it's there. I want it to be in the team. So I'm going to forward that email, and I'm going to comment here my thoughts on what he shared based upon the work that we're doing, but it's going to reply in Teams rather than in an email that goes into everybody's inbox that we all have to filter through.
And then it's going to be posted in the posts of that team where people can comment and so on. And then it's stored there for future reference.
Yep. So we have about 10 minutes. Do we want to see if they have questions?
Yeah, any questions? I think that pretty much covered everything we wanted to cover today. Any questions that you have?
We just gave you a fire hose of information.
Yeah.
Cindy.
So when you are creating a brand new team, there are several different options, and they always change kind of the default of those. So I noticed that you had a reflect tab, and I was like, I've never seen that before. But then of course the team that I'm in has a reflect tab. But so like, is there a recommendation of, or can you ever go back and reconfigure the team because some of those standard tabs at the top are never used, or?
So Cindy's question is, when you create a team, like some of the standard things that are across the top, these are things that we've added. You can add a tab. You can also come in and manage the channel to see how that works. You can also go back and you can edit your channel. About the only thing you can't do is change the visibility when you initially create a channel. So for example, this one is only visible to the people that we added, but they can't see anything else in the team for this particular one. It's a shared file, but we knew there were going to be people outside of this group. And again, I told you about the lock. It's only for us. So the only thing you really can't do is change the visibility factor of that.
And I want to go back here to summer. Yes, office skills with Amy. This is how I've taught myself all of this. I have not gone to any special Microsoft trainings. I am not a Microsoft expert. I was just somebody who was curious and needed something. And I came across Office Skills with Amy. I find her YouTube videos to be very informative, very to the point, easy to follow. So if there's something specific, if you go to her YouTube channel, you can search specific things that you want to do, and you can watch it more in a step-by-step nature. So today was more like kind of showing you all the capabilities, but you're certainly not going to be an expert on it, but trying to give you some resources so that you can kind of delve into it a little bit more for the purposes and the way it's going to better suit you in the position that you hold.
Okay. I was just showing them how to add the different tabs up at the top, and you can rename those tabs also. Like, how did we do that? I think it's in Managed Channel or Edit. It's not in
Managed Channel. Maybe.
I'm pretty sure it's in Managed.
No, I don't think so.
We'll find out where that is.
Sometimes it's a little, it takes a little trial.
It's not something we do every day, again,
Yeah.
so it still takes a little bit of time to figure out where that is.
Yeah.
Other questions?
Yeah.
Block time on your calendar to do. Can you do that from the planner?
Let's see. I don't know that I've ever done it from Planner.
I don't think I can do it on a Mac, so I'm going to let her,
Let's see.
because Mac does not have the block time feature yet. So
Let's see if I don't know if I can only do that in Outlook with the calendar view or if I can do it.
can you go into,
Yeah, I don't know. Okay, I'm here. My tasks. Let me take a look at all of them. Let me look at a grid. I need to do this. I've not been. It doesn't look like it'll let me do it from here. So I think I have to do it from my Outlook platform. Okay.
which usually what you can't do in Planner, you also can't do on a Mac, just so you know.
Yeah. So I saw another hand go up over here. Was there a question over here on this side? No? Okay. Any other questions? Yeah.
How well does this work with, like, the shared mailboxes? I call them the ghost mailboxes because they really don't
How does all of this work?
Some of it works and some of it doesn't. Sometimes, like for example, you can flag things, you can pin things, you can label things, but you can't snooze. Snooze is going to be attached to a specific person, you know, a handle, whereas the shared mailboxes, but I believe in the shared mailboxes, I have a few of them here. So we are in a FHSU placement. So here, yeah, you can flag, you can pin.
I think we tried, did we try to?
We tried to snooze and that did not work. It looks like you can create a task from it.
I do think you can create a task.
Share it. So I think you can do
And
almost everything but snooze.
Can you create an event? That was the other thing from the.
So let me see. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So yeah,
You can't on a Mac, just so you know.
But you can do just about everything else except for snooze. So yeah, that does work. And in the shared mailboxes, those labels, those categories are really helpful. So,
Other questions?
anything else? Okay, so then another quick question before we wrap things up. How many of you are going to be at the Administrative Assistance Lunch on November 18th? November 18th. All right. So we're just trying to get a handle on how many we're going to have repeats on and how we can change this up a little bit so it's not the exact same thing. So we just wanted to see how much overlap we had. Yeah.
We made a comment at the meeting that it would be great to have reviewed over and over.
Okay. So.
But it can be new too.
What we might encourage you to do is actually bring your laptops. So we might have you send a message so that we could actually maybe do more hands-on. Maybe do a review, but then also have time to practice some of it, and we can come to you and answer questions. As I think that's part of we are excited that we have been asked to present this so many times, but we also don't want to bore the people who have sat through it now 4 times. So.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for being here
thank
today and hearing us. I hope that it was helpful to you and that gives you something to think about. If you have questions, use the team.
Use the team. You're added to it. Use it.
Help each other. We'll help you, everybody. Let's just help each other. So we learn things from others as well. So. Oh, yes. Is it? Oh, I think it.
It was on the.
I put it on PC. Oh,
there
it is.
we go.
Okay.
It just took a little bit of time.
Oh, yep. Okay.
Okay.
If you don't mind, would you please, if you did not get checked in, would you give it one more try? And if that doesn't work, I do have a piece of paper
Have a good rest of your day.
Switch it to the next slide now. I don't know how.
They might need to scan for the new ones coming in for the second class.
Yeah, but that's session 1. So you'll want to switch it to session 2. The arrow.
It's just a
About ready, Miss Morgan? So about ready? Hayes State University. And today I'll be covering the second part of the presentation today, which will be discussing leadership and the foundations of effective leadership. It's a big difference between the two. And then there'll be a short break, at which time I'll go into conflict resolution. So, when you hear about leadership, we hear about it all the time. It's a buzzword, as we call it in HR, something people throw around a lot. We talk about great leaders. The only problem is leadership and effective leadership are two very different commodities. Let's talk about someone who might be seen as a great leader, someone who can get things done or has created great things, but is not an effective leader, or what they call a poor manager. Some of these are people you're going to hear of quite famously. Elon Musk. I'm sure everyone's heard of him. Tesla. He builds rockets. Maybe getting into other great things that's coming forward. And you think, well, of course he's a great leader. I mean, look what he's built. They're saying he might be the first trillionaire eventually. But actually, if you ask him and the people that work for him, he's an extremely poor manager. Great visionary. But that's one of the problems. His management style is chaotic. It's very impulsive. It's very much, I don't know if you, sometimes like looking at something, oh, butterfly. Because things go through his mind so fast at such a different level that he can lose trace really quick and go off on another tangent. That's why he has wonderful managers that work under him, that take these great visionary ideas and they start breaking it down. Now, he still stays a part of it, and you bring him back, you reel someone like him back in so that it continues to function. But like I said, employees that work under there that try to keep up with that, they talk about burnout, sudden firings, because, again, very emotional, and a lot of pivots. So he's a leader. He's leading one of the biggest companies in the world, but oftentimes not an effective leader. You may have heard of Steve Jobs. He had charisma, he had vision, but he was also known as to be extremely abrasive and a perfectionist. Again, fire people very quickly. Anyone that wasn't on board quickly was quickly very fired from him when he first started. He left behind a lot of emotional wreckage in early Apple. They even fired him in 1985. He created the company, and he was fired from his own company in 1985 because his poor management style and caused internal conflict. Now, he matured later, he learned. He actually took classes and learned from experts how to be an effective manager and an effective leader, and then came back to his company and grew it to what it is today. Some you might not know about. Travis Kalanick from Uber. You may or may not know that name. I'm sure you know Uber better than you know Travis. He built a transportation empire, but Uber became toxic. Harassment claims, ethical breaches, cutthroat competition, no guardrails. Wonderful leader, great visionary, just terrible manager. So we're going to discuss that today, what makes an effective leader. Effective leadership is built upon a foundation of crucial skills and principles. I've been through some of the best leadership skills in the world. Doesn't make you a good leader, go to the schools, but at least I've seen what those schools are about. No one is born an effective leader. Leadership is learned. There are skills that come through that. Now, some people have natural abilities where they're charismatic. That makes them a good leader, a natural leader, but not necessarily an effective leader. So we're going to talk about the importance of developing strong communication abilities. That's that first part. If people don't know what your vision is, if they don't know where you're going, they can't come along. Sound decision-making strategies. Decision-making, we make 1,000 of them a day. But there's a skill set to making great decisions, not impulsive decisions. And a high level of emotional intelligence. That's another one of those buzzwords we've gotten lately. Emotional intelligence. And we're going to cover what all that is today. So all of these foundational skills are essential for guiding teams, inspiring other people. That's what a leader does. They inspire. We have them today. We have them in politics. They might not be very good managers, and sometimes they're not very good people on both sides of the fence. But obviously they were inspirational to get votes to get them where they're at. And navigating the challenges of modern leadership. It's different than any other time in history. Why is that? Well, we're at a place now in history, we're under a microscope. Every word you say, everything you do can be seen, not just now. 10 years from now, the words you say, the things you do, because we have social media. And it never goes away. How many people that you can think of that's been on the news have either been taken out of positions, lost jobs, even from 10 years ago, something that they may have said when they were a teenager, come back to bite them when they're trying for an upper level position. Because social media never goes away. I guess that's what Snapchat came into being. It disappears quickly unless somebody saved it. But everybody saves it, so it doesn't really matter anymore. So, but like I said, it's going to be there. So those leadership skills that we talked about. Communication. Effective leaders are skilled in active listening. Public speaking, and fostering open dialogue to ensure clear and transparent communication with their team. They have good decision making, the ability to gather relevant information. There's a lot of information out there, more than any time before, folks. Whether you Google it, you ChatGPT it, you Pilot, you Gemini, whatever. We have access to more information than we've ever had before. Too many times some leaders get trapped in that paralysis by analysis. There's so much information, they don't know how to go through it right. They don't know how to analyze things. And then make a timely decision that guide their organizations towards success. I had a commander once who, when we were going through school, that was his favorite thing. Lead, follow, or get out of the way. Because we don't have time to sit there and just wait. And that's part of being a good leader, knowing when to do each of those. Emotional intelligence. An emotionally intelligent leader, they understand and manage their own emotions. That's what that emotional intelligence is. It's that maturity. Not acting like a child when you don't get your way. Emphasize with others. Understand others. As this world gets larger, and we deal on an international scale, we're dealing with all kinds of people. Cultivate a positive, motivating environment for their teams. If you master these 3 core leadership skills, communication, decision-making, and emotional intelligence, you can effectively inspire, guide, and empower your teams. So we're going to deep dive into a lot of these. So as a leader, you got to understand your strengths and weaknesses. We've all got them. What are you good at? What aren't you good at? I've been through hundreds of interviews. I've actually never liked that question much. What are your strengths and weaknesses? Well, I know what I know, but I don't know what I don't know. My weaknesses, as my family can tell you, I can often be impatient. That's part of my thing. I'm one of those, I get information, I prefer to move forward and go. Sometimes it causes a problem, and I have to slow myself down at times. In fact, for my team, when I get them in the meetings, I'll say, this is what I would like to do, give me your feedback. I need them to tell me, hey, slow down a little bit, pull in those reins, let's see where this goes. I know that's one of my weaknesses, which is why when I'm working with my team, I put that out there. My strengths, is leading that team, giving people the chance to lead. You got to know where these are. How do you know? Ask your boss. Ask your supervisor. Come blatant. What do you see as my strengths? What do you see as my weaknesses? Don't be afraid of them. Oh, I don't want to bring up weaknesses. You do want to bring up weaknesses. A good leader wants to know their weaknesses. How are you going to fix what you're weakest at if no one ever tells you? That's the key. So ask your supervisor, where do you feel I am weakest? What's my strength? Talk to your peers. It can be your friends, your work peers. There is no one on this earth who will be more straightforward with me than a lot of my peers, my friends, military friends from the past, co-workers. They're the ones who will probably be the most blatantly honest with you, straight up. This is what's wrong with you. They probably told you before, if they're good friends. And here's the most important one, from your direct reports. Ask them. Something's got to come before that, though, and we're going to get to that in a little bit, and that's giving them a chance to be a leader. Make it so they're not afraid to tell you what your weakness is. But ask them, where do you think I could do better? How could I better give information to you? How could I better lead you? Because everybody's led in different ways. And if they're going to be on your team, you should figure that out. It comes back to that seek that feedback. Ask. Encourage open and honest feedback from colleagues, team members, mentors, vendors. Full 360. Encourage it and don't get defensive. That's the problem a lot of us have. Somebody gives us honest feedback, then we try to throw a defense out there. Well, this is what this one. Accept it. Especially if you ask for it, accept it. Yearly evals come around. We get the information back, and immediately we want to start throwing that deflection out there. Accept it, whether you agree with it or not. Accept it on the chance that it's true. Deep dive. Figure it out. Is this really true or not? If 2 or more people are saying it, it probably is. Practice that self-reflection. Set aside time regularly to examine your thoughts, emotions, behaviors. Where are you now compared to where you were before? I'm not the same guy I was 10 years ago, even 5 years ago. What's changed? What's new in this world? What's different about the team you're at? What's different about the workplace you're at? The department you're in. We have people that go from department to department at this university. The teams are different. The groups are different. You might be working with different students. In that, get with yourself and figure out what you need to be in order to be an effective leader for those people. In my own office, we've had a lot of shakeup. A lot of the same people, different positions, and I know we're hiring in a lot of different places here. As new people come in, how can you lead them? First, you got to find out who they are. Cultivate self-acceptance. Embrace your authentic self, including your flaws. It's you. Don't try to be fake. People will see through it. And eventually, when it becomes a stressful situation, the real you will typically come out. Embrace it, but learn from it. Learn and adapt. One of the biggest leadership situations for me was when I first came out of the military. I was used to being a military police, platoon leader, executive officer for a company. I was used to telling folks to do things, and they did it. They did it quickly, and they did it right, or else they were going to hear about it. There were repercussions if it didn't occur. And that was how my life was set up. I went to a military college before that. I grew up in the household of a military dad. Then I got into private enterprise. I was running substance abuse clinics. And I had these young college graduates coming in and working as counselors for me. And they weren't very effective just going, do this, do that, you do it this way. When it was slow to happen or didn't happen, it was driving me insane, and I was coming off hard on it. And I had a vice president of operations named Bill, ex-Navy chief. He said, son, he says, you can't command out here. You lead. He goes, you're not leading those people, you're commanding those people. He goes, why don't you show them what's expected of them? Ask them how they can get this done, and then you support them on it. Wasn't what I was used to. But it was one of my biggest growths into becoming a manager and a leader later on. So we can always learn, always grow. And I talked about that, leading by example. A deep alignment between your actions and your values. When you model the behaviors you want to see in your team, you send a powerful message that inspires and motivates them to follow your lead. This approach not only builds trust and credibility, it fosters a culture of accountability and continuous improvement. Expect it, inspect it, follow through. Show you're willing to do. You're willing to learn. Are you willing to be here late? And it could be even the opposite. I was in a company and they expected people to take their vacation. They were real big. They pushed work-life balance hard. And I remember I got an email from my regional vice president, and she said, you haven't put in for vacation yet this year. It's already June. I said, no, I just really haven't found the time. She goes, you really should. Because after all, I'm pushing my people to do it, but I'm not taking time off. Then we got to August, and the communication was different. I got a communication from the same VP. She said, you haven't put in for vacation yet. I will see vacation by the end of next week of when you're going to take it, or we're going to have a really bad discussion next. I'm like, wow, I'm getting yelled at and about to get written up because I haven't taken vacation and got away from work. That was new for me. I'd come from companies where it was almost that you were lauded the more time you spent at work, the less time vacation you took. That wasn't acceptable at this company. They expected all employees to take that time, spend time at home, not have burnout. And I pushed it to my people, but I wasn't doing it myself. So what was that probably showing to my folks? I'm not taking time off, so what would they probably start doing? Stop taking time off themselves. I don't know if you know this as a leader, but the people that you lead watch you like a hawk. Faculty, your students are watching you like a hawk. They see what you do. They're going to see if you do what you preach, and they're going to follow. When I was working for Lowe's, huge company, they asked me once about a job at the corporate office. I said, absolutely not. And like, you don't want to come to corporate? I said, nope. I've visited corporate, and I've seen what happens. Robert Niblock, he was the CEO. Everybody tried to get in before he did. Nobody wanted to get in after the CEO. So suddenly you had the VPs getting in a little bit earlier than that. You had the divisional managers getting in earlier than the VPs. And I was like, I don't really want to get in that much earlier. And nobody wanted to leave before he left. But Robert Niblock almost lived at that corporate office. There is no work-life balance there. So I was like, that's not where I wanted to be. So, at that same time, leading by example, when he realized that, he would actually leave the office and then go home and work, simply because that people were imitating what he was doing. So lead by example. Tried to keep up with our colors here. So how do you foster that team? So talk about leading by example. Demonstrate the behaviors, the attitudes you want to see in your team. Open communication, problem solving, positive attitude. Encourage feedback, but give it both forward and back. If you are not having regular sessions with your reports they don't know what's going on. Then they're surprised when they get their annual review. There never should be a surprise. Encourage that feedback. Members feel comfortable providing constructive feedback. I don't mind when someone comes in and shuts my door and says, I don't think this was right. That's okay. That's your opinion. You should be conferring that feedback. Now, am I always going to be able to do what someone else wants? No. It's also my job as a leader. There has to be a final decision. And I'm going to have to make that decision. But get that feedback. there's a part of that in leadership where when I've had an HR crew and we have something come into the room, and I go, okay, say it's a sexual harassment situation. Get my team and ask them, what should we do next? Am I expecting them to know? No. Especially if they haven't worked this kind of a situation before. But I want their opinions. For one, I should never be the smartest one in the room. Something could come through that completely changes things. But I want them to know, I want to hear. Now, I'll probably give an answer. Well, that's good, but we can't do this because of this. There's a federal law that says no. We can't do this because of protection. We can't do, that's a great idea, but this is why. That way they're learning. It's not just no, no, no. They're actually learning at this point in time. But they're also learning I care about their opinion. Their opinion means something. And if they give the right answer, that's what we're going with. Thanks, Sarah. Actually, Sarah, that's what we should do. That way Sarah's getting praise in front of the whole group. That knowledge, that whatever. That's how you build those groups. They're not afraid to be wrong. And a lot of folks are when they're coming up before a leader. They're afraid to be wrong. Are they going to be ridiculed? Are they going to be told how stupid they are? Are they going to feel stupid about it? No, even when it's wrong, you build it. That's how you encourage feedback. That way, sometime, if something's wrong, they'll come straight to you and say it. You won't have to wait until the building's burning down. You'll hear about it when it's just a little bit of heat, not when the flames are going. So you encourage that feedback and foster the teamwork. Get your folks to work together, not just as a whole team, but individuals together. If you've got a 10-person team, 2 people working on this project, 4 people working on another project, get collaboration because it builds trust, shared purpose amongst the team. And they'll start sharing with each other. Even when there's not a project, they get used to sharing with each other. They get a comfort with each other, even with you. So let your teams grow. Let your teams get better. I usually tell my teams that I'm hoping to get them to the point where they're no longer working for me eventually. That's the best thing I can do as a leader. Get them out of my office. Because I'm hoping to be in my spot for a while. And so they can't have my spot. So I'm hoping to build them up to where they're going to want to take that next step. But they're not going to do that without that confidence, without learning. I can't teach them everything. So they learn it from their peers. Things their peers are experts at. Cross-training, building that teamwork. And recognize achievements, team achievements, individual successes. That's the good thing about giving them little tasks. And then you praise them for it. Different tasks. Short-term tasks, easy to complete, quick success, then recognize. Long-term tasks, same thing. Group tasks. What you will find is if you do this, they come seeking more things to do. Everybody likes an attaboy, an attagirl, attaperson. You got HR messing up in here? Invest in professional development. Provide opportunities for team members to learn new skills, attend training, grow in their roles. This college is good. I mean, they actually have funds to provide for you to get training. Do so. If you have different opportunities, upskill. Never stop upskilling. If you can get it for free, get it. If you are a manager or leader, provide it. Give them what they need. If it's a thing, say in my group, if it was about FMLA, we might not be able to get a training in FMLA. I've been doing this for almost 3 decades. I can train on FMLA. Situational leadership. Train your folks. Let them upskill. So, we've talked about inspiring, empowering others, being an effective leader. When we talked about clearly communicating organizational goals, if folks don't have a direction, they'll never go in the right way, and they won't know when they get there. Clearly establish your goals. Clearly establish their goals, organizational goals. What does Fort Hays want to do? So we have the big goal. Then we start breaking down the individual goals. Academics has their part. Student affairs has their part. Finance and admin has their part. So I get it from Wesley, the CFO, what the administrative goals are. Where my part in that is. Then I break that down to my folks. I've changed things in the office because the goals that I was given, I felt could be better got by restructure. So we restructured the office. And we let them know, my folks know why it was done. Let them know what that goal is, what we want to achieve, so that they know when we get to the end and how we're getting there. Talked about providing constructive feedback and recognition. Well, feedback is positive and negative. Feedback doesn't always have to be positive. Negative feedback can build someone too. The problem is, most of our feedback tends to be negative. I've been to a lot of companies, provided trainings in a lot of different places. And we would talk about negative feedback or write-ups. And I would have leaders come in and I would ask them, how many write-ups do you typically do in a month? And they might say, 2, 3, 4, what have you, sometimes more. And I would say, how many of them are positive? And every time I've done one of these, it's been 0. We're really quick about noticing that negative, but not so much the positive. And one of the worst statements that ever came out of a training I did, I gave a homework assignment. I said, next week when you come in, I want you to bring me a positive write-up or performance management. One person asked in there, what if I don't see one? Wrong question to ask. Because my immediate answer is, if you can't notice one positive thing that's happening in your group, maybe you don't need to be in a leadership role. And that's true. If you can't notice one positive thing that came out of your department this week, and one positive thing that someone did, maybe you shouldn't be in that place. Because you can't provide effective leadership if you can't give positive reinforcement. In other places I've worked, I would tell them, for every 3 negative write-ups you bring me, you better bring me 1 positive on your group, or else I'm cutting you off. The HR officer will no longer accept one of your negative write-ups anymore. In fact, next time it'll be me, your boss in here, and you can discuss with us why you can't do that. It becomes a habit, folks. Anything you do over and over, you build a habit. If you start doing positive reinforcement, positive statements, you will notice how easier it gets to do so. You encourage collaboration and teamwork. The people that work for you are only going to do what you encourage. What they see pleases you. We're all based on that child method, folks. Whatever pleased mom and dad, that's what children tend to do more until they become teenagers. But when we're young, what gives us the positive feedback, what gets us the candy, what gets us the hug and the kiss, that's tend to what we do more and more. So we foster that supports it. Foster that positive work environment. And you'd be surprised at how much more positive it becomes in there. People feel good. When people enjoy coming to work, and yes, that does happen. When they feel good about coming to work, they're more productive in the workplace. I've had a job where when I pulled up in the parking lot, if I seen a certain car in the parking lot, my stomach already did the twisties. Because I knew it was going to be nothing but antagonistic all day long. It was a manager I had to work with. He didn't like me. I don't think he liked much anything in the world. And it was always going to be a bashing, a negative. And I hated the thought of even going into work and dealing with it. How are you going to be productive at that point in time? You really can't. So, these challenges that come up at work, how do we deal with them as an effective leader? For one thing, let's talk about them. Nobody wants to point at the ugly baby. Folks, I'm a father. I've seen a lot of babies, and we might say the words, every baby's beautiful, but let's be honest, folks. Sometimes we got to acknowledge that it might get beautiful later on, too. You know, get the ugly duckling, that's a book. Things are things and facts are facts, okay? So we acknowledge the situation. This is a problem. Too many times we go around those. We don't want to talk about the problems. We only talk about the good things that's going on. We can't fix the situation if we don't acknowledge the situation. A clear assessment. This is broke. And then we communicate the transparency. We maintain the open, honest communication with your team. You share the information. You don't hide anything from them, especially if it's going to affect them. So we acknowledge this is broke. Now we got to fix it. As a leader, you don't have to fix everything. How are your people going to learn if you don't task them, if you don't delegate them, if you don't trust them? How are they going to stretch and grow? Give them a chance to screw up, not on the largest task that the school has, but give them tasks. And if they mess up, that's okay. And let them know it's okay. And you bring them in and go, well, this happened. And ask them, what do you think happened with this? Where do you think it went wrong? A lot of times they'll know instead of you going, well, you did this, you did this, you did this. That doesn't give them a chance to grow. Let them tell you what they think went wrong. Maybe they don't have the knowledge of up here. They have the knowledge of here. They're looking at it here. Now you're giving them a chance to see it from up here, of that different level of management. So delegate tasks. Empower your team members to contribute their unique strengths and weaknesses. Let them be leaders. They're not the leader of the department, but let them be leaders. Let them step out. Let them take some responsibility. Adapt and innovate. Encourage flexibility and adaptability. Creative problem solving to navigate through the changing landscape. I don't know everything. That might surprise some folks. Adapt. Things are going to change. My family, it's a changing family. I married a wonderful woman from South America, Guayaquil, Ecuador. My sister-in-law is from Seoul, South Korea. My other sister-in-law is from Ghana. She's African. Folks, I come from a very small southern town in Virginia. There was some adaptation in my family, whether it's food, whether it's culture, and just in the world itself. How we see things. And not only for myself, but also for my wife when she got here. This was a whole new world. From Apakakusi when she got here. From Pakiansu when she got here. Watching her adapt. Because all this, see, for you, this is norm. Your world is normal. Because it's your world. You got to understand, it's not just your world out there. Open your mind up to that it can be flexibility, that you can adapt. I had a call last night from a gentleman who was wanting to know about moving and what it takes. I just finished my 29th relocation. Some folks have said, how do you do that? It's not even thinking about it anymore. I could probably move in my sleep. For some folks, they've never moved a single time in their life, and it's scary. Well, we have those things in the workplace too, folks. It's very scary. Things we're dealing with for the first time. We have foreign students who are coming here. They may be working for you. We have people that relocate here. They might be coming from New York. They might be coming from California, Florida, Mississippi. It's like, well, yeah, it's a different state. No, Mississippi is 3 states in 1 state, folks. You've never been there. You got the Gulf Coast, you got the middle, and you got the Delta. Might as well be 3 separate states, might even 3 separate continents. But you learn how to adapt. Let your people do the same thing. Listen and let them adapt. And this is the most important thing we're going to talk about today as far as I'm concerned. Even Tony Robbins agreed. Your legacy is every life you've touched. Think about that as you as a leader. Folks, I don't know if you're really grabbing that yet. Your legacy is every life you've touched. And every one of those that you've touched is now going to touch another. Come on by my office sometime. I got a picture on my desk from Liberty. It's got 3 of the people that used to work with me. I got to get my crew that I've got now on another picture. But right now, there is a young lady who's in Australia. She was just in Bolivia before that, who is now working with people in HR, and she's touching lives. And there's a young gentleman in Atlanta who was just in Richmond a little while ago. He sent me a text not long ago. I don't try not to get emotional with this, folks. But he worked for me at another location. I was able to teach him things. And he sent me a text. He goes, I just wanted to thank you, Russ. He goes, because I never have. He said, I just took my first HR director position. He goes, the things you taught me, that I've now been able to teach others, that's made me step up in leadership to the place that I am now. He goes, I don't think I'd have ever been here if I hadn't learned from you back then. That's legacy, folks. Where is your legacy? And think about that every time you're in that leadership position. What legacy are you leaving? What are you creating? How are you touching the people that work for you? Bad? Good? How do you know? Have you asked? Find out. Stay in touch. Be an effective leader. Leadership doesn't stop on the day that they leave the office. I had one still asking me questions, a couple of them asking me questions years down the road. My operational partners, Mark, Chris, Rick, still call. They've got their own HR folks, but they'll still ask me questions sometimes. Legacy. Whose lives have you touched? I remember my son asked me that question once. He was like, what's my purpose on this earth? I'm like, I don't know. He goes, how will I know? I said, you may never know. He goes, well then, what does that mean? I'm like, you don't have to know. I said, do your best every day to make someone's life better. Whether they work for you, whether they don't, or they just come into your life. That's still leadership. Make their life better, because you don't know who they're going to touch. I don't know who the people that work for me are touching now, but they may be touching the next Elon Musk. They might be touching the next Bill Gates. They might be touching the next Mother Teresa. You don't know. But if you do your best on each one, you do these things here, you show effective leadership, then you leave that legacy. And you don't have to know where it goes, but it's going to be good if you are an effective leader. Because those people that you touch are going to go forward and hopefully touch others. All right, part of that leadership is building that team. Trust is everything. Team members feel that they can be open and honest with each other, and their contributions are valued. Folks, once you lose trust, it's lost. You might do things to try to build it back up, but it's like one of those things where you're pouring water from one container to another. It's going to be a little bit lost each time. Your people have to be able to trust you. They have to be able to trust each other. A lot of times I take this back to times when in the military or when we were in special operations, even in corrections. As a member of that team, you can't keep looking back over your shoulder. I had to know that person behind me was going to do their job, they were going to do it right, and it was whatever was behind me was okay. There had to be that trust, or we were not going to be effective at all. People were going to die if that didn't happen. Well, maybe it's not so harsh in the workplace, but people can lose everything here, folks, if they can't trust. If your team members can't trust you and they can't trust each other, something doesn't get done right. Let's put it to where we're talking about the very basics of it. Someone doesn't perform up to par because they don't trust. They don't trust you. They don't trust their teammates. They're not effective. What happens eventually? They're probably going to be out of a job. A lot of times when folks get terminated, it's because there's a lack of trust in some way, form, or another. They lost their job. When someone loses their job, it's a lot more than just a paycheck. I have a very good friend of mine, Combat. She was recently the vice president of marketing for a company in Charlotte. Whole company shut down because the owner made some very sketchy decisions. She stayed with them. Headhunters had contacted her before. She stayed there because she trusted him. When he said it was okay, it was okay. My uncle did the same thing at Enron. He worked for Enron, and owners were going, oh, everything's okay. Don't take your money out. Y'all remember what happened with Enron? Some of you hopefully old enough to remember that. But my friend stayed. Company shut down. She went about a year without a job. She's working now, thank goodness. But I'll tell you what happened to her. She had to take her kids to drop them off in Galax, Virginia with her parents. Why? Because she lost her home. Kids needed a place to live. Couldn't stay in Galax. Why? If you ever been to Galax, Virginia, you'd know. There's no real companies there. There's no future there. So this vice president of marketing was sleeping in a car at the state rest area at the Carolina line so that she could keep putting in for jobs in the big areas around Charlotte, because there was a problem with trust. She lost her job, and that happens these days, folks. That's the extreme, but we have to be able to trust. Collaborative problem solving, working together to get that problem solved. That clear communication. We talked about active listening. What do most of us do? If I'm talking to you, typically you're already developing what you're going to say back in your mind. Before I even finish speaking, instead of listening completely to what I've got to say, you're already thinking about your response. I'm not going to ask for folks to tell me, yeah, do I do that? Because over 95% of the people do that. That's not active listening, folks. And that, by the way, that's a learned skill. We talk about these leadership skills. As a leader, that's a learned skill, active listening. Sit there, shut up, listen to your people, to everything they've got to say. Take a pause. There's nothing wrong with silence. I know in this world we think it is. There's nothing wrong with silence. Take a pause. Think about what they said and answer back. Make sure you understood what they said. Reiterate. So what you're saying is this, because that might not be what they're saying. I'm listening through ears that are biased, because they're my ears that's lived through my ways, that's known my things, not that person's. The words they use, the phrases they use are different than mine. So let me recapture for something important. So this is what you were saying? And they go, yep, that was it. That way there's clear communication. You share your ideas, the feedback. And then when you've given communication, follow it up. This is what the expectation is. So at the end of it, sum it up. So we covered this, this, and this. Maybe even send out an email afterwards. Make sure that communication is clear, because that's where problems come aboard. When it's all said, now I thought I said to do this. Oh, I thought you meant this. Clear. Have the shared goals and vision. Ask them what their goals and vision are. Give them goals. Find out what their goals are. Write them down. And then put in there how we're going to do this. One of the scariest things I've seen is performance management or performance reviews. Some of the best things I've seen, some of the most useless things I've seen. I went into one company, I pulled the filing cabinet, pulled out the personnel files, took out a performance review. It was for an assistant manager. And it said on there, well, this will happen by this date, this will happen by this date, this will happen by this. Pulled him into the room. And I said, so how was it when y'all did this? And he gave me a strange look like, what are you talking about? And I was like, well, on this date it was supposed to happen. What about this? Never heard that. Great. Pencil whipped performance review. Someone's future in the company pencil whipped. Why? Because by this date, performance reviews are supposed to be done. So anything written on there to get it inside, and we fix the thing. Then bring the manager in there and going, hey, when was this done? When was this done? Oh, we didn't do that. Then why did you write it down? Why didn't you follow up? So what you're telling me is that this person there didn't get the proper training because you didn't follow up what you said you were going to do. That's not being an effective leader, folks. What if he had brought that manager in and gone, hey, you know what? We said on October 27th we were going to do this. Well, it's October 15th. Let's get this leadership thing done. What do you think that would have meant? Do you think this person over here would have felt he actually cares about my promotion? He actually cares about where I'm going in leadership? There's a big difference in that. Now he's going to have that feedback. He's going to have that motivation. Well, my manager cares about me, so he's going to care more about the job. He's going to have that enthusiasm to accomplish these goals. And like I said, continuous learning and growth. Don't be afraid to step out of your comfort zone. Learn something new. That's how you become an effective leader, because you see things from different parts of the world. I was a cop when I first started out in the military. I did undercover stuff, and I was rough on folks that had drug situations. That's all I understood was these people did drugs and they sold drugs. Got to get them. I got injured, came into the civilian world. I became a substance abuse counselor. I started to see an other side of the world from that other part of it. I seen the families that were devastated. I seen how someone that might be a professional, in fact, a head of a department at Duke, suddenly world completely turned upside down. And it wasn't because of something she did, it's because she was in a car wreck. And the pills that she was prescribed caused her to get an addiction to them. And then when she couldn't get them anymore, guess what? I'm a doctor. And the government doesn't like it when you do that. So her life changed. I would not have seen that as a cop. So I understood the other side of this. It gave me a full world view of that world. That's what I'm saying, continual learning. Get out of your comfort zone. Pivot. See what else is out there. Those people that work for you, find out about what's important to them. And then learn about that so you can talk about that. Maybe bring that into what's their next step. That's an effective leader. Maybe you're getting someone to leave you from, maybe I'm in HR and I've got an HR person, but that's not really their strength in their world. They're in it, they need a paycheck, but from talking to them, I can see that they're going to be much happier and probably better here. So we start focusing on that, and it opens up a new world to them. That's where their skills are. That's where their happiness are. And it might mean turning loose and losing somebody that would be great for me, but make it better for them. That's an effective leader. Continuous learning and growth. And this is why it matters, folks. All that stuff we talked about before, being an effective leader, building these teams, it boosts productivity. A positive team culture can increase employee engagement, motivation, and job satisfaction, leading to higher productive and better work output. I was working for Sodexo. Dollar General called me up and said, hey, Russ, would you mind coming and working for us and taking over this place in South Boston, Virginia? I was born there, wasn't raised there. I've been there a couple times. But that's a problem because I knew people from there because I had family that lived there. I said, what's wrong? They're like, terrible engagement, worse than the company. Like, we've heard stuff about you. We'd like you to come there and take it over. So I get there. They're like, oh, yeah, it's terrible here. Employees just aren't happy. So let's buy some more pizza. Let's get some tacos. Let's have an employee carnival. Folks, that didn't fix the problem. So I'd ask them. They actually went into the survey. Survey said the supervisors were awful. Hated working for these supervisors. So let's just fire our supervisor, right? No. Can't do that. Because then where do we get them from? You know what the problem was? There's no training. Talk to supervisors, I'm like, what kind of training did you get when you became a supervisor? None. So basically we take John, who's the best forklift driver in the place, and make him the supervisor of all the forklift drivers. Because after all, he's the best forklift driver, so that should be good, right? Now John is supervising his peers ones he liked and didn't like. That always goes well. Doesn't realize what he's doing. Now his boss is yelling at him because he's not accomplishing what he needs as a supervisor. Why? Because he doesn't know what he needs as a supervisor. John's good at forklift driving. Doesn't know how to be a supervisor. So eventually John gets frustrated. He either gets written up or fired, or he quits. The people all hate life and work now. So what do? John's now fired. Oh, he's our next best forklift driver. Let's promote him up. All we're doing is firing and running off our most productive people, and still we've got disengaged employees because we never got down to that root cause. Hey, let's train the supervisors on how to be good supervisors. And you know what? We did. Engagement goes up. So once those employees are engaged, boost productivity. Once you bring in effective leadership, it increases employee engagement, that motivation. Productivity goes up. When productivity goes up, bosses are happier, other employees are happier because it affects their jobs too. The whole place gets better. It fosters collaboration. The more people work together and it's productive, the more they want to work together because everybody likes accomplishment. Nobody likes going home at the end of the day and going, you know what, we didn't get nothing done today and everything's going in the crapper and nothing's working right. God, I love working there. But when they're talking about they're coming home and they're excited because we did this and we accomplished this, and maybe Tisa's talking about it at cabinet, how wonderful things are going and enrollment's up and grades are up. That's when we feel good because everybody likes to know they accomplished something. So the more that fosters that collaboration and it works, the more you're going to have people doing it. And when that happens, when a place is productive, that's when you're going to attract better talent. When they're having these blue chip players, they don't go to colleges that are at the bottom of the barrel because they want to win. They don't want to lose. They want to win. Same thing. Top professors or top people in management. No one wants to go fix a broken place. Done a lot of my career when I was early on. A lot of hard work and a lot of stress, but not a whole lot of recoup back. And people don't want to do that, especially as they get up in their career and they've already done that to get where they're at. They want to come where top productivity attracts top talent. And once you get top talent and things are going smooth, it just starts to working. It enhances the innovation, the culture that embraces creativity, experimentation, that risk-taking. That's where people are going to be happy. They can do that next step. I got a couple more minutes with you. So, I've already covered a good bit of that. Now the question is, we've got it. You're an effective leader. You started working on building your team. How do you sustain it? I've seen it happen too many times, folks. I'll talk about Lowe's. Situational leadership, great training, by the way. Guy that created that, brilliant guy. Lowe's spent tens of millions of dollars on this. Said, hey, situational leadership, we're going to train the trainers. I became a trainer. You'll train all managers in it. They'll come for a whole week stay. We'll pay for the hotels, the food. We're going to pay for you to go there, and they'll get trained in this. And they were motivated. Loved this training. And they got back to their locations, and then within 2 weeks, they were no longer doing it. You can have all the greatness in the world. If there's nothing there to sustain it, it'll just go away, and you'll be back where you started. So how do you sustain it? You encourage that open and transparent communication. When somebody sees it going downhill, they speak up. If somebody sees something wrong, because what works today might not work tomorrow. So how do you sustain it? By innovating, by learning, by adapting. Remember we talked about adapt, there's these new things. Ask Blockbuster, what happens when you don't adapt? Oops, can't, because they're gone now. So, Sears. When I was young, nobody's beating Sears. Sears was number one. I mean, they had the catalog and everything. They're gone. They didn't adapt. You have it Toys R Us, you can have any number of companies. They didn't adapt to what's new. So that's communication. Talk with each other. Learn what these new folks that you don't understand anything they're talking about, learn what it means. Learn how effective it is. Learn what's going on with this new environment. I know my kids are the same way, whether it's Riz or I don't want to go into 6, 7 stuff, but and everything else is going on. Learn what's important to them. Yeah, I know, I see the head shaking. You know, because that's what's going to affect this new generation. And you're only going to be effective if you just cater to the old generation for so long, because the older generation is going to go. I said sustaining recognition on a regular basis. Tell them they're doing a great job, how effective they are. Yeah, you might have done it right then to build that team, and then as soon as everything gets good, then you cater off. You've got to sustain it. It's got to be a regular basis. Talked about professional development. You've got to keep it up. Take an interest in it, promote it, push it. Team building, organize those team building activities. One of the greatest ones I ever went on was throwing axes. Team building activity. Because a lot of folks that were in my position are very alpha, wanting to win. I have never seen such cutthroat in a friendly organization before in my life. Was it, I think it was, there was a situation that came down to an end where two people were about to throw, and it says, well, you know, you can allow them to take an extra point to make this competitive. And I was like, nope. It's like, well, you know, she has no chance of winning. He goes, yeah, I know, that's okay. I was like, you know, this wasn't for money, but it was that competitive in there. You know, build those teams, go out. It doesn't have to be an axe throwing. It doesn't have to be a weekend retreat. Find something. It could be an afternoon together to discuss something. Whatever it takes. Maybe it's, you know, bringing in a game of Sorry, I don't know. But, you know, have some team building things that's fun. And have something on the end of it. Feedback and mentorship. You don't know what's going to happen in the future. You don't know how it's going to affect someone in the future. You might one day be working for someone who's now working for you. It happens. So we talk about that feedback and mentorship. Or somebody that you know, or you, may suddenly be working for someone with a connection to somebody that worked for you. So always this feedback to mentorship, sustain it. Even after they leave your place, sustain it. So, you know, building that effective leadership, that's what's all important, folks. Not just being a leader. A leader's a title. Anyone can be a leader, be put into a leader. The question is, can you become an effective leader? And I'll close it out with two. And I'm not talking about which way it's going, folks. One was Grant, one was Lee. Now, I was born in Virginia, so I might have a little bit of bias, but actually, having studied military history, believe it or not, Grant was a more effective leader than Lee. So yeah, he won the war. It's got nothing to do with winning the war, folks. How he dealt with his commanders even. He wasn't friends with them. He had no problem with cutting them off at the knees when there was failure. And he would remove one in a heartbeat if it wasn't being productivity because it was affecting the goals. It was affecting the troops under it. Lee was a different way. He was more soft-spoken. He was more quick to go, all right, what's just going to move you over here? Well, one was a leader. One was an effective leader. And you can see the outcomes from there. So the same thing in yourself. When you go home tonight, ask yourself some of these questions. By the way, this is going to be in the shared drive. If you need to go back and look at it, there's more slides that's going to come through with it. This is usually a 2 to 2.5 hour presentation. We're in one. But a lot of it, this is also going to feed back on what we've already discussed. Ask yourself what kind of leader you are, what kind of leader you're working for, what kind of leader you want to be, what kind of leader you want your people to be. And start putting things in. If it's not where it needs to be, start putting it into action. Any questions? Come on, give me some questions. Doesn't even have to be about this. None? All right. I hope y'all had a good, yes.
If there is not necessarily consensus within a workplace environment, where people are not on the same wavelength as to what constitutes effective leadership,
Yep.
and people can't really see eye to eye on that aspect, how might folks approach that?
Very next training, conflict resolution, is actually going to talk about some of those things. It doesn't have to go well. Conflict is okay. Conflict brings change. So that's when you get together, you talk, hopefully as adults, use our words, and find out why people feel this way. What's the base for it? What's the root for it? Well, I've had some folks that just come up and go, well, because every boss I've had has been bad. Well, that don't mean I'm going to be bad. Give me a shot. You know, it could be, and I have worked with folks who have had all male terrible bosses, like, because men are terrible leaders. I'm like, whoa, you haven't been all. Some folks just have a natural hate of HR. And that hurts my heart. That's my heart and my soul here, because they've had bad relations with one. But you know, there's like 1.2 million of us in the United States. If you've only known 3, how about give the other 1 point some million of us a shot? So if that happens, find out why, and that's that conversation. Deep dive. Why are you feeling this way? Why are you feeling this way? And what's going to come down to eventually is whoever is in charge is going to make that final decision. I don't expect the people in my office to always agree with me, and they shouldn't. And I tell them that. I want to hear their opinions. I want their feedback. At the end of the day, I've got a decision to make. And they're not always going to be happy about my decisions. But in order to be an effective leader, I've got to make sure they're also aware of that. But I want to know why. You can do it even in your own houses. My wife definitely does not agree with everything that I want to do. Now, I'm not the leader in that house, but even when it comes to our kids, they don't agree with everything I say either. But it's my way in the house. I'm the leader part. And why? Because I've got a little bit more experience. Have I ever been wrong? Oh, yeah. And do my kids always remind me of it? Oh, yeah. And it's probably going to happen in the workplace too. But you make the best decision you can based on what's before you. And if it fails, own it. And we'll talk about that in conflict resolution. If it fails, and it will at times, an effective leader will own it. I screwed up. This is why I screwed up. I didn't understand this point of it. You were right, Shannon. I was wrong. And I was wrong because of this. Own it. And that still makes you an effective leader. And they will actually respect you more for that in the future. That's the best answer I can give you on that one. Anyone else? Well, thank you much. We've got about probably about 7 minutes before the next training hits up, if you want to stay here for it or not. If you have any questions, feel free to call me at any time. I'm right here on campus. Everything will be recorded. hell is it? That's not going well. Let me close out and try to get back in. We're having technical issues. I take it back out again.
Actually, we have a QR code for attendance.
Oh, it was on. Oh. It was on, but the trouble is, it's hooked up the same way it was. Oh, there it goes. I guess it's goes back to. Computer thing is like the rock said. Turn it off, turn it back on. Always go with it.
about conflict resolution. Most of you here, I think, have already scanned the QR code for attendance. For those of you who are out in the, what do we call it? In other regions, streaming, please scan the QR code as well so that we can capture your attendance, and you'll be in the pot for the door prizes. So.
Thank you so much. I'm afraid this works. Ah, there it is. All right. We're going to be talking about. I'm sorry. I got you. All right. We'll talk about conflict, folks. By the way, and for the folks who weren't here for the first one on streaming, my name's Russ Irby. I am the HR director, or director of HR here at Fort Hays State University. Been here a few months now, getting my feet wet, and we're going to talk about conflict today. And pretty much it's all I've known my entire life anyway. I had 2 older brothers. There was nothing but conflict in that household. Mostly it was for food and for affection or what have you. So, and then it was sports later on. But I learned that sometimes conflict is necessary in order for there to be a change. Then, of course, I go to a military college. A lot of conflict there. Commissioned as an officer in the military, sent to multiple combat zones, definitely felt conflict there. Also, within even the military cycle, conflict. Almost everywhere I've ever been, left and after an injury in the military, I worked in maximum security prisons, conflict. Bounty hunter, conflict. HR, lots of conflict. But what you learn eventually as a leader is conflict can be a very good thing. People avoid conflict. I don't know why, but they do. A lot of managers will avoid conflict, like as if it's going to give them COVID or something. I don't know what it is. And I've even had folks go, can you come and give this documentation? Can you come and have this talk to one of my employees? Why don't you do it? Well, I'm not real comfortable. Somehow as a society, we get uncomfortable with conflict. Let's talk about it. Benefits. American Revolution. That was a war. A lot of people got hurt. A lot of people got killed. But it dismantled British colonial control and established one of the first modern democracies, the Enlightenment period. Did you know our Constitution is the basis for most of the democracies around the world? Never would have happened without the American Revolution. The U.S. Civil War, and you're like, oh, no, it's a bad thing. The thing is, there was a lot of loss, but it permanently ended the institution of slavery here in the United States. But that was productivity that came from a terrible, terrible conflict. And it also redefined the nation's commitment to equality and federal authority. It also spurred industrialization and the movement west. So a terrible thing. I'm not saying that conflict is always good outcomes. Conflict can be good. Sometimes bad things happen during the conflict, but it can be productive. Old people like me, the fall of the Berlin Wall, the end of the Cold War. Conflict. Conflict caused that. People were tired of putting up with that. For those who are young and don't remember that, that was a major part of everyday, almost conversation in my youth. The Berlin Wall and the Cold War. I was one of those folks that was part of the drills where you would hide under your desk, because that was going to save you if it was a nuclear war. You know, as long as you get under that school desk, you're going to be all right. But, so, you know, it was those conflicts that happened. How about the American Civil Rights Movement? Conflict, not the way we think about it. I mean, there were killings, but it wasn't war. But there was a lot of conflict, even inside households. But what did it bring about? The Civil Rights Act, the Voting Rights Act, reshaping American law. This is something that I am well used to. My last stop was in Jackson, Mississippi. I've probably off between 3 visits there. I've lived there 3 different times in my life, and that's where the Civil Rights Museum is. That's where most of the issues happened, was in Jackson, Mississippi. So we actually got to see that, my family going to the museum. A lot of conflict, and then we get into the details. But huge things came out of that conflict that changed us as a nation. And by changing us as a nation, it actually changed a lot of things in the world today. You might not realize, and whether your thoughts on America or not is one way or the other, a lot of the world goes by how we go, especially early on. Because we're a superpower, just like other superpowers, things follow us. And a lot of times we have nothing but conflict. But let's talk about resolving conflict and how you do it as a leader. We're going to explore strategies and best practices for leaders to navigate and resolve conflicts effectively within your organization. And that doesn't mean just firing everybody. You can't do that. All right. First of all, when you have a conflict, you got to define it. There's different kind of conflicts that can arise in the workplace. It can be personality clashes. Folks, we're not all the same. If you weren't here for my last training, the 3 women in my brother's lives are all from 3 different countries. So there are personality conflicts because of their cultures, of how we were brought up. I am not the same person as my 2 brothers. We were all 3 raised in the same household, with the same parents, with the same things, eating the same foods, but all have 3 very, very different personalities. So to try to get everybody's personality the same at work, when you can't even get all 3 of them the same in a household, that's not going to happen often. Disagreements over tasks, priorities, and communication breakdowns. We're going to talk about the impact of unresolved conflicts, including decreased productivity, which hurts the entire team, and then how your team, if it's decreased productivity in your team, how that can affect other teams and other teams. It can have an entirety effect on the whole of the university because of conflict in one section of the university. Low morale and potential escalation into more serious issues. And we're going to talk about the role of leaders in conflict resolution, the importance of leaders in addressing it, resolving it, emphasizing their ability to mediate, facilitate open communication, and foster a collective work environment. You got to understand the nature of workplace conflicts. It's a training, it's a skill. That's why I was talking about a lot of times I go, oh, I don't really want to address that. It's a skill that you learn. You learn to be comfortable with being uncomfortable. It's never comfortable to be involved in conflict, folks. Even the hundreds and hundreds of conflicts I've been involved in my lifetime, it's never comfortable in there. But you learn how to be comfortable with being uncomfortable. And you strategize for effective conflict resolution. Leaders can create a more harmonious and productive work environment, leading to improved work dynamics and an organizational success, not just for that one area, but how it will affect all the others. So that role of a leader first has to identify and acknowledge, proactively recognize the presence of a conflict, see when things aren't going as they should be. What's going on? How is it affecting things? How are we going to address it? What are the underlying causes and the impact they have on the team? I talked about in the last presentation on when I went to Dollar General, the problem was conflict between supervisors and their workers, because the supervisors didn't understand how to be managers. They were poorly managing their people. There was conflict there. That caused conflict. So how did we fix it? We got down to that root cause. We trained the supervisors how to properly supervise and manage. Once that happened, the conflict dissolved. Now, how was it affecting everything else? When these departments weren't being productive, the site wasn't productive. So that means we're having all these upper level visits coming down trying to figure things out. And all people were having overtime because the same amount of stuff had to get out whether you were productive or not. So now we were also working overtime hours. I mean, everybody was tired and everybody was grouchy. Nobody was having time with their families. The exact wordings I heard, I'm making all this money now that my family's spending because I'm never with them. Now, so you can see how these conflicts in these little places were affecting the overall. So you got to learn how to identify and acknowledge it. Hey, we've got a problem. That's not saying that you're weak as a manager. If there's conflicts in your area, that's not saying you're weak. Conflicts are going to happen. Acknowledging that we have a problem that needs fixed, that means you are a productive manager. It means because you have that emotional maturity to recognize, I've got a problem here. We need to address this problem. Understand the dynamics of conflicts. Analyze different perspectives. How are people seeing this? Everybody sees it from a different lens. As I said, I got family members from different parts of the country, different socioeconomic status. We have them here. See them through everybody's perspective and lens. Their interests and power dynamics. Folks are going to do things that gain them more power or that are better for them. That's typical human behavior. How does this affect me? If it's bad, probably not going to deal with it. If it's good, I'm going to push for it. Even if it's bad for you, if it's good for me, this is what we're going to push. Now we have a conflict. And how it contributes to the conflict in order to gain a comprehensive understanding. So looking at all of those areas, trying to figure it out. That's what a leader does. And then you facilitate the open communication. You bring them in, encourage open and respectful dialogue. That's number one. If it starts to get personal, you shut it down. Unless the conflict, I guess, is personal, but even then, it should not be personal attacks. But you have people talk about it. You don't keep it closed in. You don't let it fester. If it's a wound, you might need to open up the area to it. You never know. Create a safe environment for them to express their concerns. You might start to understand how leadership builds on one another if you're in for the last training. Creating that safe place for people to be able to talk and give feedback. You might be able to see now how this builds into conflict resolution by having that open area where people can express themselves and that they feel free and safe to say it. That's going to help get rid of the conflict. Explore solutions and alternatives. Collaborate with your team to generate and evaluate potential solutions. I'm not from here. You might not realize that from the accent. And you might say, well, we're Americans. Yeah. Do you ever realize how big America is? It's huge. A lot of us don't. A lot of us have been here all our lives. We're used to just being Americans. My wife's country is as big as the state of Virginia. She got here, she's used to being able to go to other countries in a 2.5-hour drive. You can't even get to the other parts of Kansas sometimes in a 2.5-hour drive. That's how big our country is, folks. It takes you a full day to drive across Texas. In a full day, she could have been in 4 different countries where she's from. We were not even crossing a state. So to say, even here in this country that we have, we're going to have people that see things differently. So in my group, I'm not from Hayes. I don't see things how people in Hayes see things. So I'm going to need to listen to understand this dynamic here, which is different from Jackson, which is different from Madison. By the way, if you don't know Madison, it's a suburb of Jackson. And the people think and do everything completely different than people do 5 miles across the way in Jackson. So in a workplace, it's the same thing. Understand your people. Explore solutions and alternatives. Collaborate with the team. Evaluate potential solutions. Get their feedback. And then implement conflict resolution strategies and techniques. We're going to talk about mediation. Let's talk about it. Sometimes we just have to find a middle spot. Sometimes there can't be a winner. In fact, a lot of times there can't be a winner because people dig their heels in. Sometimes we have to find, okay, What can we live with? What's going to get us past this so we can get to the next part? And that's when we negotiate. And sometimes you have to compromise. You might have to give up a little bit something this time to get what you want the next time. And help the parties reach a mutual acceptable agreement. Then you monitor and evaluate the outcomes. See what happened. When you address conflict, see how that worked. It's going to work differently with different people. Some folks, you just need to talk to them. Some folks, I won't say you have to bribe them, but come on, let's be real. It gets to the point where, okay, what can I offer you to stop? What's going to make you stop? And it may be, you got to go. See how different things affect. Then you go read back, you evaluate it. That didn't work. Everybody's still mad. What we did didn't work at all. So going in and trying something different. We talked about identifying that root cause like we talked about with that supervisor. So that's what happens. Identify or define the problem. Clearly articulate the specific issue or conflict that needs to be addressed. It's not the first thing that might pop into your mind or show up. Deep dive. Oh, because I could have said, well, the employee's unhappy, so let's make them happy. Let's give them pizza. No, that wasn't going to fix the problem. It might fix it for 24 hours, but it doesn't fix the problem tomorrow. So let's dive a little bit deeper here. See what needs to be addressed. Avoid making assumptions. We won't even go into about the assuming thing. And ensure you have a clear, unbiased understanding of the situation. Unbiased. Everybody's biased. I'll throw that out there. If you think you're not biased, you're wrong. We're going to have that conflict discussion. Because everyone is biased on what they know or see, what they understand. Because you don't know everything, you haven't experienced everything. So, of course, there's going to be a bias of one way or another. It was amazing when I got out into the world, coming from where I did, on how the world sees things so very different. Depending on where you went, how you go, the cultures you meet, things are seen in a very different way. And having that clear understanding, unbiased understanding is huge. I remember Manassas, Virginia, and I had to talk to a department manager who scheduled two people the same. These were people, they had not been in this country long. Both were on work visas. They were from two countries that had been at war for almost 100 years. These were not two people that were probably going to get along in the workplace because they still had their cultural biases. And they did. And they talked about it often. That's probably not the two people you want to work together right away until they have a time to adjust to this. So, like I said, they were both great workers, both great people. Hiring them both, fantastic. But there were things that no matter what happened in there, there was going to be a bias because of their history and what they had been taught and everything they had learned. That one gentleman just hated that person. Why? Because all his life he had grown up, he was told, that's a bad person. They're all bad. They're all thieves. They'll steal from you no matter what. Telling him right away, no, he's a good person, that doesn't fix that unbiasedness right away. So it's working on that in the workplace. How do we address this bias? Gathering information. We collect data and evidence from multiple sources. We do interviews with involved parties. Talk to people. That's what I get from managers the most. They don't talk to people. They talk to people, but not with people. Big difference between the two. Talking to someone, talking with someone. Telling someone how this has got to be done and asking them questions to see what they think and what they feel. And because how they feel is going to matter upon their bias and on this conflict. What they got out of it. So you interview them. Review any documents. Observe the situation. See if there's patterns, trends, things that could be contributing behaviors. Conflict. Worked in a warehouse. and a gentleman was shot when he got home, getting out of his car. They caught the guy that shot him. It was over a female who worked in the warehouse. The gentleman who was shot, his mother and aunt worked in the warehouse, same shift as the mother of the gentleman who shot the guy. Do you think there was conflict? They had been okay before. Something now, a contributing factor, people that were okay, talked with each other, had no problems, been working with each other for years, laughed, playing, friends. Your son shot and killed my son. Would this be a contributing factor to conflict? Absolutely. So it wasn't a conflict before, now it's a conflict, and now it's got to be addressed. How are we going to deal with that as a leader? And I'm not just on things that might happen. This actually happened. Myself and the warehouse director now had to figure out how to deal with this conflict. And it can happen to you in whatever you're doing. These out-of-the-way things happen. That's why it's good, why you train and get to know, how do I deal with conflicts between people? We talked about identifying that underlying issues there. Deeper systemic issues that may be driving the conflict or problem. I don't know your life, but I need to know it in order to deal with the conflict. I've been used to working with victims all my life. Substance abuse, sex abuse victims. You've got to understand where they're coming from, because they don't address issues in life like everyone else does. If you were the victim of a drunk driving, if let's say your father died because of a drunk driver, you're going to have conflict possibly with your friends if you see them get drunk and go towards a car. A friend that's a great friend that you've always loved and had no issue with, suddenly you see them getting intoxicated and getting behind the wheel. Now there's a conflict because of an underlying issue that had an effect in your life. That's why you have to get to know your workers as a leader. Get to know what drives them. Get to know what motivates them. And if there's an issue and things aren't going well, ask. Because you have to understand the underlying issues. Look beyond the surface level symptoms and consider root causes. Communication breakdowns, organizational culture, or unaligned incentives. Find out what's good for them. Well, I provided a pizza party last week for someone that's lactose intolerant and a vegetarian, and you brought all meat pizzas. Did you incentivize them? No. Probably irritated them because they got hungry watching us eat. Did you ask before doing it? No. I remember going to this one place and dealing with it, and they were having these circuses every year out in the parking lot. And so we asked the groups, is this what you want? No. Then why? And you ask later, why did they do it? Because that's what the employees want. Did you actually ask them? Well, no, but everybody likes a circus, right? No, you like a circus. That doesn't mean everybody else likes them. Some people don't deal well with clowns, folks. My daughter doesn't like clowns. Maybe she watched too many movies when she was growing up. Shouldn't have showed her It on the old one. So that's why you've got to understand their culture, their incentives. Find out what your people like individually, and that's how you incentivize them. Well, I'll get you to this training because they want to know about this. Or maybe it's, even something in their office. Whatever incentivizes them. That's how you break it down. Analyze casual relationships. Explore the connections and interdependencies between various factors contributing to the problem. Use tools like cause and effect diagrams, fishbone diagrams. We won't get onto this here, but the casual relationships. We had a situation where one lady, and this is where I was called to do an investigation to a company. She said that she was being unfairly treated and she wasn't getting promoted because she wasn't going to the company parties after work. After work, a lot of people get together, go to the bar. Drink, laugh, have a good time. She was a single mom. She had to get home. She had kids. She had to go do it. But she wasn't part of that social group, So as that continued to move, she was kind of put to the outside. Did that cause conflict? Yes, it did. Great worker, so I had to understand what were the casual relationships within. What connected to this? What connected to this? What connected to this? That's what an effective leader is going to do. Inside this conflict, where are the connections? What's causing this conflict? And again, back to prioritizing that root cause. Once you understand it by doing all of this, by understanding all of this, you prioritize that root cause. You identify it based on potential impact. How is it going to affect the company? One of the most irritating things happened when I said, okay, we got to get trainings for these managers. I said, all right, well, we'll do the trainings. And the director said, nope, can't pull my managers off the floor. I need them on the floor working. Well, that's where they're causing the problem, because there's no training. Well, they can't come off that floor. So you go, because there wasn't much of that prioritizing. But at the same time, it's like, if they come off that floor, we got product that's got to go out. If they come off the floor, we ain't got product going out, and we can't have that either. Okay, we'll do lunch and learns. That's what I came up with next. They got to eat lunch. I know they all ate lunch because I've seen them eat lunch. So I'll buy them pizza, by the way. And that's what I felt. That's what they wanted. I asked. And so one Tuesday every month, for 1 hour, I provide pizza, and we do a training. So we're eventually able to prioritize that root cause and address it. Critical, impactful root causes that, if addressed, would have the greatest effect on resolving the conflict. So eventually, pizza did solve the conflict, folks. But it just wasn't the way that they tried to do it the first time. Actually, it was giving the pizza to the managers instead of the workers that caused the workers to be happy. Now, you probably wouldn't think that in some situations, but that actually caused the situation to be right. So what are these techniques? Effective conflict resolution techniques involve collaborative problem solving and mediation. You work together to understand the underlying needs. It's not me telling you. And see, that was that part, like I said, in the military, I know some of you were here or not, first coming about leadership. As a commander in the military, I had a much different way of solving problems. Fix it or I will fix you. That was the problem-solving technique that was used back in those days. You two fix the problem, figure it out, and you fix it, or I will fix it for you. Now, that doesn't work out here in the regular world. It doesn't work in the military anymore either, by the way, but out here, you work together. It's not me telling you how to solve the problem, because that's not going to solve the problem, because it might not fit with your culture. And you might go, okay, just because I'm your boss, but that doesn't fix the problem. You work together to understand the underlying issues. Some people don't even understand their own underlying issues. Some people don't understand their own bias or that it's there. My grandma, sweet lady, loved her to death. Full-blood Pawnee, Native American from Virgin Island, Virginia. I remember when I was going to marry my wife, showed her. She goes, I'm like, what's wrong now? She's like, you're about to marry a Mexican woman. I'm like, no, well, actually, I'm not. She's from Ecuador, hon. It's a different country. I said, and she's like, I'm like, you do realize that she's mostly Native American, right? She goes, oh, she's good people then. You know, that underlying issue that she had there, because when she was growing up, if you weren't from the tribe, which was really bad because she married a pure Caucasian Scandinavian, but she grew up in a culture where if you weren't Native American, then that was a problem outside of her group. It was dealing with that underlying issue. Suddenly, oh, she's Native American. Yeah, good. You got to find mutually satisfactory solutions. Individuals and groups can navigate complex disputes and differences constructively. So we're going to go through these, dealing with mediation and problem solving. First, man, right back to the same class we had last time, the last hour. Active listening. It all comes down to basic leadership, folks. If you can get these base principles, you can be an effective leader in every single area. Active listening. Listening to what someone says. How they say it. Now, that can be three different things. Okay, fine. Okay, fine. Okay, fine. Same words. That's why I don't like talking on the phone, and I really don't like communicating through text. Now, with my daughter, I can tell because she puts emojis. But for the most part, you lose a lot when you lose that physical part. But are you listening to everything they say, or are you already constructing your response before they ever stop speaking, so you're only half listening? Are you repeating what they say to make sure the communication got through? Are you looking them in the eye, or as they're speaking, yeah, okay, good, I appreciate it, or God knows today, sure, that's a good idea. Yeah, we should get that done pretty soon. Do we do that? Of course we do. Or, okay, that email came from, that came from. We're not active listening. We're passive listening. Why? Because, well, they're going to talk, so I got to listen. Make sure they know that you care about what they're saying. Empathetic communication. Do you care about what they're saying and the person? That's what an effective leader does. Not just the listening. Do you have empathy? You might not feel how they're feeling, but can you understand why they're feeling that way? That's what comes down to understanding their root cause. Asking questions. What's in their past? Knowing your employees. So can you understand why they're feeling the way they're feeling? That de-escalates. I've been through a lot of terminations in my life. As an area HR manager for one company, I was the one that determined whether somebody was terminated or not. Mine was the final decision. And people get mad when they get terminated, and they should. And if you're a manager, don't ever get put off because somebody's mad when you terminate them. When you terminate someone, you're telling them they're no longer good enough to be there. You're telling them they can't pay for their house, they can't pay for their cars, they can't feed their kids. They've got to now go tell their spouse that the house payment's not coming in. They got a whole lot on them all at one time, and their body is going to go into the fight or flight. And most people, because you don't matter anymore, because you're no longer their boss, it's going to be fight. It might not be physical, but expect for the words to start coming in. Why? Because you just attacked them, you attacked everything that they are, everything that provides for their families, and now they're going to fight back. So understand that's going to happen. But there are empathetic ways. Understanding that they're going to feel that way, you can help de-escalate it. Sometimes it was just by listening. Sitting there and telling somebody when they come up, they got the paperwork. Because a lot of times their boss would go, hey, you know, now I wasn't the one that had the conversation with them for termination. I'm the one that decided it. Boss would go, okay, you're terminated. Sign this right here. Okay, get out. And they'd be like, what? So I get a phone call. They have a why. They want to tell you why. They know what they did. Well, most people do. But they have a why. And they want somebody to understand their why. So you empathize and you listen. You listen to them rant. Sometimes they're going to say it 3 or 4 times. That's okay. Guess what? You're getting paid as a leader to be there. So you're getting paid. They're not. So it's okay to listen for a little bit. Let them rant. Have that empathetic communication. I understand. Well, can I have my job back? No. But I understand why you're feeling that way. Using those conflict resolution techniques that we're talking about, the mediation, the compromise maybe, the giving in now to get back later, and having that emotional intelligence, because it's not about you. That's the problem we have. We are such a selfish culture, all the way from the time that we're born. Cry, 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 cry. You don't need nothing. You just want mom and dad to come in there. Didn't really need anything. We have this selfish culture as human beings that we want our way. Well, get past that, because when somebody else is being terminated, when somebody else has an issue, it's not about you. It's about them. So, be that grown up. Take yourself, your personality out of it. Any conflict that comes your way, the bias has to come out. Emotional intelligence is there. You might, especially as comes, you might like one person more than you like the other. Does that mean this person's right? No. But if you let your human nature, not your emotional intelligence, get involved, there might be a little bit of finger on that scale over here towards which one wins. And people are watching. Remember, not everyone was here. In the last training, I talked about people are watching. Your employees are watching. They're going to see that. Even the ones not involved in it, they're going to see that finger on the scale. And they're going to know if something's right or not right. But yet you lean towards this one even when they weren't quite right. Why? Because you liked them more. This one over here is the troublemaker. This one's always causing a problem. Don't mean they can't be right sometimes. So having that emotional intelligence and awareness to step back from it, to engage correctly. Oh, this is the big one. Accountability and documentation. This is where it also comes where that conflict. Are we good with conflict? Can we hold someone accountable? Can we be accountable? Can we establish clear roles and responsibilities? That helps resolve conflict because people know what they're supposed to do. They know what's going to happen if they don't do it. That's also an important part. All stakeholders involved in the resolution process. It ensures accountability and ownership. Sometimes that's the biggest thing in the conflict. Who owns this? I've been in departments. It worked that same way. It's not mine. Oh, it's yours if it turns out right. But when it goes wrong, and I know, folks, I've seen some nods in here, when something has gone wrong here at the college, something like, then everybody's trying to figure out who's responsible, who owns it. Now nobody wants to own that sucker. That's that hot potato getting tossed back and forth between departments. Well, see, but you establish those clear roles and responsibilities. Who are the stakeholders? Who has ownership? That sometimes can get rid of that conflict, because then when something goes wrong, they can't avoid it because it was already set out in stone. It's theirs. It's time to own it. It's time to move forward. Secure those approvals and sign-offs. Obtain necessary approvals and sign-offs from relevant stakeholders. That way, we know the resolution. Even with the conflict, say we got a conflict, we're coming to a resolution. Who's going to own monitoring it? Who's going to own to make sure that it happens going forward? Set it out. That way, if it's somebody in my office, it's got to come back to me. All right, this is what we're going to do. And that way, if it doesn't happen, it's time for me to step in and address those consequences because we didn't follow it. Implement checkpoints and milestones. Folks, no matter what we've done to fix wars, nothing happens overnight. It's not, okay, let everybody be peaceful now. It doesn't work that way. There's checkpoints. You get there a little bit. Because conflict didn't happen overnight. All right? Different things happened eventually to cause the conflict. Well, guess what? You're not going to fix it overnight either. There'll be milestones. Okay, I need you to do this. And then eventually we're going to get to this. Or you're going to give up this. You're going to apologize for this. What have you. Check on those checkpoints. Milestones. Implement them. And then ensure that they happen. That becomes that time again where you've got to get used to being uncomfortable. If you say it's got to happen by next week, and it hasn't happened by next week, now you need to find out why. That's your job as a leader. And if something needs to be addressed, it's time to go make that address. It's time to do that uncomfortable thing. Communicate outcomes effectively. Clearly communicate the final resolution. Make sure everybody understands it. This is the resolution. Does anyone have any questions? Are there any things we haven't addressed yet? How it affects all parties. Make sure there's transparency and understanding. Otherwise, you're just going to be back there again within a couple weeks and doing it all over again. Document, document, document. If it's not on paper, it didn't happen. When you get to before the EEOC or the IRS, Department of Labor, or if you got to go before TISA or Jill or Wesley or Joey, it's not on paper, guess what? It didn't happen. Make sure you document each step of the resolution process. What decisions were made, what actions were taken, why you did it. Believe it or not, the whys can save you millions of dollars when it gets to the EEOC or other government agencies doing an audit. The why. This is why we did it this way. So now they can say, oh, it wasn't because of someone's skin color. It wasn't because of someone's gender. It wasn't because of someone's age or their religion. Oh, you hired this person because it was the only person that applied. Or this person had the minimum requirements, this one didn't. What were the whys? That's what they're going to want to see. And that will fix that conflict, or help it at least. And establish feedback loops. Implement feedback loops to gather insights. In other words, go back and check with the folks. Did it fix the situation? Did people learn from it? Did people grow from it? Are there things you can now institute that would keep this from happening next time? Feedback loops. So, to prevent conflict, we've already talked about resolving conflict. Let's talk about preventing it in the first place. Back in the day when I did law enforcement, it was a whole lot easier to do crime prevention than dealing with the crime after it happened. The reason for that is because then you don't have victims. Establish clear expectations. If you communicate explicitly about roles, responsibilities, and desired outcomes, you avoid misunderstandings. That's what most conflict comes from, misunderstandings. Whether it's cultures, whether it's values, whether it's workplace roles, people. I get calls all the time. I've been dealing with HR, like I said, for over 25 years. Some folks don't understand their role. It wasn't explained to them. It wasn't gone over on their job description. Now they're asked to be in doing something new, something they don't know. Guess what? When you give somebody something they don't know, they get scared. Why is that nervousness? Now I can screw this up. I'm not good at this. People like doing what they're good at. They don't like doing new things a lot of times. And if they don't get trained on it, hey, I want you to do this. Well, can you tell me how? I don't know how to do it, and this has to be done, so I'm giving it to you. Then that's gonna start conflict within themselves, and then between you and within the team. So you clearly establish the expectation, what needs to be done. We're back to that again. Practice active listening. You're not going to do it right away. It's not something when you walk out of here today, yeah, he was talking about the active listening. I think I need to do that. Folks, that's not the way it works, because you're going to go back and do what you've always done. Why? Because muscle memory. I'm going to say a couple words in here and tell me if you've about heard them, because that's the way it's always been done. You probably heard that before, right? Well, it works the same way with you. You're going to do what you've always done if you're not thinking about it. The only way you're going to actively listen, if you haven't done it when you come out of here, is if you think about doing it. Because otherwise you're going to do what you've always done, because that's what the body naturally does. My wife gets angry at me because I write notes on my fingers sometimes. And you might say, what do you do that for? I don't always have my notebook with me, folks. I do carry a notebook. For those who have gotten to know me here, I have a notebook. There's one in that bag right there with a pen all the time, and I write notes. I don't carry my computer hardly anywhere, but I have a notebook. Sometimes I don't have my notebook, like standing up here. If there was something I really needed to tell y'all about today that I hadn't put in this communication, guess what it would have been? It would have been on my finger. Why? Because it's right here, and I'm going to see it. Same thing happens. My wife has gotten used to that. It might be, oh, active listen on the finger. Whatever you've got to do. A note on your board, a note in your computer, to remember to do that the next time there's a conversation with one of your people. Active listening. Encourage the open dialogue. Well, we heard that before. Last training. Make sure your people feel comfortable. If they're comfortable talking to you and expressing what they're uncomfortable with, then the conflict probably won't happen, because people get conflict when they don't feel comfortable. They feel like they're going to get attacked. When people feel like they're getting attacked, what are they going to do? Defend or attack back. If they feel comfortable, they're going to do neither. So, if we encourage the open dialogue, all parties feel comfortable expressing their concerns and opinions, it takes the conflict out. So you're preventing the conflict before it ever gets there. Identify the common ground. Seek to find areas of agreement and shared interest to build a foundation for problem solving. Like I said, talk to your people. Have team building things where you can have games where the people describe themselves, what they like, what they don't like. They'll find common ground. I have made good friends with a lot of people that if you looked at us, you wouldn't think we're going to probably be that good together. We have different backgrounds, different educations. We even have different political views. Imagine that, two people with different political views that actually get along. Even different same person. One of my best friends, by the way. Completely different religious views and completely different political views. And yet we get along great. We have a lot of commonality. We both love wrestling. We both were wrestlers coming up. We're both big-time bikers, both love cigars, there's a lot of common ground there that we meet on. We both love going out to restaurants. We love live music. But if you just threw it out there and like, oh, those two guys are different religions, different political, there's no way they're ever getting along. Yeah, we do. Because we discovered those common grounds that we do have. Address issues promptly. Address conflicts as they arise. Don't let that sucker get infected. Because if you let it fester, then it's going to affect other parts of your department. As a leader, you address it quickly and you get rid of it. When you start to feel the heat, you address it before it becomes a fire and gets away from you and starts burning other parts of the organization. Use neutral language, very important. I've taught this to so many managers. We address behaviors, not people. People are not wrong, behaviors are wrong. They come in late all the time. That's a behavior. We talk about being late and attendance. We don't say, you are this. You are that. No. This is a behavior that we need to address. We use neutral language. Why? Because if you accuse me, you attack me. You attack me, I'm going to defend. And I'm probably going to attack back. So we use neutral language. We don't accuse. We don't inflame. And that escalates tensions right away. That way we're not, somebody already might be hyped up and irritated. And now we throw something like that out there. All we did was throw gas on an already small fire. Now we've got a big fire. And we probably want to address the issue because now we've got this one going on. We've moved it over here to here. Collaborate on solutions. We work together to develop mutually agreeable solutions that address the underlying concerns of all parties. We talk about it. Like I said, well, oftentimes aren't every one of us going to win. What can we accept as a win for all of us? What can we do so that we can continue to work together? As a leader, that's what your job is. Find out what that is. And sometimes, folks, it is somebody's got to go. I won't say this is always going to work. This is conflict resolution and conflict avoidance. But I got news for you. If somebody just wants to come up and punch you in your face just because they're mean and they're aggravated and they just feel like punching you, none of these techniques are going to stop it. You're just about to get punched in the face and you're going to have to address it from there. Same way, there are some folks that work for you that no matter what you try, how to get rid of the conflict in an organization they might be the root cause and have to be addressed. But otherwise, you work on the solutions together and follow up, follow through. Whatever's agreed upon, follow up on it. As a leader, follow up, inspect. It was beat into me during my military time. When you give orders, when something's got to be happening, you make sure you inspect that it happened. Because if you don't, the last thing you want it to know is find out it didn't happen when it becomes mission critical. Same way with us. What if, say, schedules are supposed to be in the system for the upcoming semester, but you as a department chair, you don't follow up to make sure it happens. Then suddenly we got students needing to register and there's no schedules in the system. Do we have a problem? Okay, major problem. That's why you have to follow up. You follow up, you follow through. And here we go. Conflict resolution is not about winning or losing, folks. It's about understanding each other and finding a mutually beneficial solution. From my days in law enforcement, the best thing that happened is when nobody went away in handcuffs. Same thing. In HR, the best thing that can happen is we don't have a termination or a resignation. It's one of the most expensive things we can do is turnover. How can we address this conflict and save a good employee from either walking out the door or us having to show them door. Because if we've done that, then we should have already exhausted everything. If we didn't, then that was our failure as leaders. If we didn't address everything we could to keep that person here that we already have years of work and training into, then we have failed as a leader unless that person was just totally unsavable. And there aren't many of those out there, folks. Many times it comes down to poor management, that it wasn't training given, or it wasn't follow-up given, or we didn't find out what influenced that person or what motivated that person to get to that next level. Well, I told them to do it. That's not enough motivation sometimes. What motivates them? So, what are your questions today as far as either conflict resolution or conflict prevention? Come on, give me some questions, folks, somewhere. About this or something else? None? Y'all are as bad as the students. All right? I've taught enough classes. I've gone in as an adjunct, gone, what's your questions? And then the professor called me 2 days later, you know, they had so many questions after you left. Of course they did. No questions at all. Yeah. Yep. In these same situations, find out what's the root cause. And even ask yourself why you're upset. What was it about that upset you with that other person? And then talk, communicate. Once again, like we said there, don't make it personal. Don't inflame it before you get there. Hey, John, you know, the other day you said this. And it kind of made me feel a certain way. Why would you say that? Find out why. Say, well, that's an awkward conversation. You have to be comfortable with being uncomfortable. That's the only way conflict gets fixed. Otherwise, you're just going to be sitting over there mad all the time. You're not even finding out why. Otherwise, you go to your supervisor and go, hey, I've had them. Russ, do you mind if me and such come to your office and have a sit down? Sure. All of these techniques I talked about on here as far as being a leader, you can use in your own. Whether it being the talking, active listening to someone else. It's not just a boss active listening to their employees. It's you active listening to your spouse or to your kids or to the person at the grocery store or anyone else. Every one of these techniques in here does the same thing as resolving conflict. I don't know if y'all have noticed, but if you ever watch videos now, you see a lot of law enforcement doing this when they're stopping talking to people. They got their bulletproof vest on and their hands are locked in here, or their hands are locked in here. Do you know why that is? Unconsciousness. I used to be one. Used to be the first thing you did just because it's a comfortable, you walk around like this all the time. It wasn't because I'm getting ready to shoot someone. I would have my hand resting on my gun because it's there. And that would be the natural thing when I came up to talk to someone. But how do you feel suddenly I come up to talk to you and my hand's already on my weapon? Are you feeling a certain way? Probably. Hands come up here. Conflict resolution. Haven't said a word to you yet. Conflict resolution. Like we talked about, the physical thing. When you're going to do this resolution with someone, how you address them. John, we're going to talk about what you said next week. We're already down the rabbit hole. That's going to start bad as it is. You know, a gentleman I once worked with, I was talking to him, I watched him address someone he worked with. The lady he worked with was short, like about 4'9". He's 6'7". A big dude. Great big. He wasn't just tall. He's thick. He's big. Well, and he was a nice guy, though. But as she was sitting there, when they got ready to finish, he stood up and goes, is there anything else that we need to address? And you've seen her sit back in the chair. He's been 6'7" almost all of his adult life. And a big boy even before he was adult. He doesn't realize that now he's creating a conflict and he hadn't done anything. It was stand up. But he had never seen the world from outside of his eyes. He hadn't seen it from her eyes. So same thing. Go into it thinking, how can I meet it? How can I be sensitive to people's feelings? How can I effectively convey the information? By going, we're going to talk about this? Or, hey, is there something that we can address here that, I just don't understand it? Avoiding the gossip, being polite, accepting people's emotions and interpret them correctly. Calmly arriving. All of those comes into whether you're the boss or whether you're the employee or whether it's just going home and talking to your spouse or your kids. They're all the same techniques. All of it's conflict resolution or conflict avoidance. These will be on share drive. All of the PowerPoints, the recordings, it'll all be there if you ever want to use them. There's going to be more management trainings that go on in the process. So if you ever want to have a training with your groups, or if you want someone to go on and say, you know what, this would be good for John to watch or Tim to watch, they'll be on the share drive. They won't have to have been here today, and you can just have your employees go watch them, or one of your employees go watch them, or one of your friends watch it, or what have you. Other questions?
It's kind of a big picture. I don't even know what I'm going to ask. But having sat through presentations like this, it seems that we talk from the supervisor to managing supervisees. What about supervisees to supervisors? Because there's a big difference when you're trying to say, there's an issue here, but this is the person that controls my paycheck.
There's always going to be that power dynamic in that situation. And that's when we talked about it before, that freedom. In the office, telling my folks that work for me, hey, I want feedback. I want you to push back sometimes. Now if it's something I've got to address right now, and we got to do this now because someone's affected the paycheck, there's no discussion. We're going to do this way. But otherwise, I want your pushback. I want your feedback. That's hopefully, if enough managers go through these trainings, they would understand that. Now, I can't force that on a manager. I can't force it as a person. But if you use these techniques, hopefully, it will go well when you bring it up to a manager. But same way, if you go up to your boss and go, this is how I want to talk to you today. This is how, and I've had employees do that, by the way. That's not going to go well. Because once again, it's also a power dynamic, not to mention, now you've irritated me, and there's a power dynamic. So you have to think about this even stronger, just as a kid would to their adult, as a spouse. I mean, it's one thing to talk to a boss, because you might not have this job forever, but you got to go home and you got to go to sleep next to that person. So same techniques. It depends on what the power dynamic is even here, and that shifts all the time. So as a person addressing their boss, hopefully you do the same thing. Be sensitive to their feelings. Read the room. If someone just walked out of there and it's a smoking gun coming out, I mean, it was yelling, it was screaming, maybe their boss was just in there ripping them a good one, this might not be the time to go challenge them, folks. Because they're already prepped for bear. Read the room at that same point in time, but go in and use the same techniques with the supervisor. Be empathetic. Don't raise the voice. What do you have in common? Let's start the conversation that way. Now, if I go into your office, and I'll suggest it to you, one of the first things I'm doing is I'm looking around, especially if I don't know you. I'm looking at your pictures. You got kids? Great. So you got kids. I got a couple too. Crazy, aren't they? Man, such a thing when you've got kids. What do we talk about in here? Start setting things that are common, what are common ground, so that we can start talking about the HR or college, or you see they got a degree in such and such. Oh man, I've always liked that, and I've thought about getting my degree in it. Now, I'm not going to tell you to lie, folks, and don't do that, because they're going to catch you pretty much on it. But if it is, talk about it, because you know what people love to talk about? Themselves. Already get it started. And if I start talking about me, I'm going to get into a better mood. Or if I'm talking about my kids, or talk about my dog. I mean, my baby bear is on my phone. She's everywhere. She's pictures. If you got a dog and you get me talking about baby bear, you might as well sit up and pull up a drink, because we're going to talk for a little while. So, do those kind of things. It's the same techniques how if you address someone else or if you're a supervisor. Common ground. Empathetic. And can you Now, if there's a power dynamic, is it easier for a manager to kind of hopefully fix those conflicts? Yes, because you can't force your manager to do anything. But hopefully at that situation, if there's a conflict and the manager won't address, the manager won't work with it, hopefully that manager has a manager that you can then take it to. Hmm?
I mean, within a university setting, there are different offices, and sometimes individual people within separate offices don't get along.
Mhm.
The interpersonal dynamic isn't working out, and it's just something that lingers, festers, and the two supervisors of those offices haven't addressed the issue. I mean, what can be done to prevent that from coloring the entire dynamic of everyone between those two offices?
Well,
People aren't getting along at all.
Well, hopefully there is a boss above those bosses. Now that's always not going to happen. Now, you can't fix some things, especially at my level. I can't fix things at the Tisa, Wesley, Joey, Jill. If they didn't get along, there's not a whole lot I could do about it. You know what? Because they don't work for me. I work for Wesley. So I can't force him to get along with Jill. If Jill and him are fighting, I'm not about, hopefully, not going to step between it. Or if Tisa was irritated at Wesley, you think I'm stepping in that, hopefully? No, hopefully I'm stepping back from that. Now, if either one of them wanted to ask me a question about it, yes. But I can't tell them what they can and can't do. So if it's outside of your realm, that's when you hopefully can go to someone on another level. If I was having issues with another director here, and I work on me, and maybe he works for Joey, at which point in time I'm going to go to Wesley and go, I'm having this issue. Would you be comfortable either talking to Joey or if I go talk to Joey about the situation? And then hopefully he's going to give me that advice that he's had as a supervisor down. Well, this is what I would suggest. And that's what you may have to do, because if you don't have an effect on the situation, you can't have an effect, there's very little you can do. Sadly to say, but like I say, it's just like the terminating of the person. Sometimes there's not a fix other than, I'll take it back to medical. Sometimes with cancer, you just have to cut out the cancer. There's not a treatment. You either cut it out or it kills you. And a company is the same way. Sometimes you got to get rid of a cancer or the company goes down. There's plenty of them that it's happened to. Any other questions? Yeah, get those managers involved. I haven't found any really bad senior level managers here so far. So. Get them involved with it. Hopefully they can negotiate a comfortable compromise. Anyone else? Thank you all so much for coming. Next one will be in March, right, Leslie? And we'll be getting more information out. There'll be different subjects, and hopefully we'll see y'all again. Mm-hmm. Thank you all for coming.